our government? Then we need your help to force the other 88% into compliance. Our democracy depends on it. We're an organization called Citizens Against Too Much Unfettered Freedom, or CATMUF. CATMUF is a bipartisan flock of sheep whose goal is expanding government until nothing else remains. Because the government is here to help you. How can you help CATMUF help you? By only voting for candidates dedicated to expanding government. It's easy. You don't need to study the issues. No matter what a politician says when running for office, they're all dedicated to expanding government. And make sure you tell all your friends and family to vote for more government. Here at CATMUF, we don't care if you vote Democrat or Republican, as long as you vote for candidates committed to growing our federal family. CATMUF, because folks just aren't smart enough to handle real freedom.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. That's the phone number for you to call to bring up whatever's on your mind. That number is 603-283-6160. And it's Free Talk Live, so you can bring up whatever's on your mind. And right now I need to log into that in order to do it. I think I might be able to just answer this call. So with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And the most professional radio co-host, Richie Rich.
Hey. Anyways.
That wasn't a shot at you. That was a shot at the three knuckleheads on last night.
Oh, that's mean. Why were
they started?
They weren't being professional?
No, they said that the Free Talk Live doesn't have any professional hosts.
Oh, well, that's definitely what Penguin was saying, and I thought that was almost kind of mean, and I did think of you, literally.
Appreciate that.
Colin asked me who's on the show tonight, and I said Richie Rich, and he's like, oh, is that going to be okay, just you two? And I was like, yeah, Richie Rich is like the easiest person to do the show with if I had to be alone with someone.
The most professional.
So, we do have a caller on the line. Let's just go right to the unscreened callers. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, it's Ridley.
Hey, Ridley. What's on your mind, Dave Ridley?
So, have you guys heard about this? There's an article in the Union Leader. Apparently, a lady is suing. She's suing the Kearsarge School Board because they refused to let her continue. I guess they silenced her and threatened to call police on her based on her comments. I guess must have been during public comment.
I saw the headline. Is this the This isn't the state rep that was silenced, is it?
I don't know if she's a state rep or not. Her name is Beth. It looks like Scar or Scare.
No, she's not a state rep.
I'm not sure exactly how she pronounced it. Middle-aged lady. Well, she looks middle-aged to me, but since I'm getting old, I guess maybe I should say old. But I guess she filed it looks like a federal lawsuit. She said I claimed that she was, quote, silenced and threatened with police intervention, unquote, after referring to a transgender athlete on a girls' soccer team as a tall boy, unquote.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Oh, well, it's not currently in vogue.
Depends what state you live in.
I guess.
If you live in a blue state, that's a girl. If you live in a red state, that's a boy.
I don't know. I kind of tend to think that it's school, so they shouldn't be, forcing something on an older woman, like calling somebody that to her is a boy, a girl, like forcing her to do that just to have a conversation when it's pertinent, especially.
Yep.
I bet the kid wasn't in the school.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I bet the kid wasn't in the room at this.
At the hearing? No, it's a. Why would they be? It's one of those there. Town hall hearings.
Because a lot of times people like to claim, oh, that's bullying or something, but that can't be bullying.
Yeah. I guess it's attorneys from this thing called the Institute for Free Speech, which I have not heard of, but that it exists, I guess. And I just have this first part of the article here, and I had to take a screenshot of it. I couldn't make a normal copy of it, so I don't know all the other details.
And this happened where?
Well, they call it, quote, New London-based Kearsarge School Board meeting.
So it's New London, New Hampshire, but
okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it's called Kearsarge School. I've been hearing so much about it because they had a trans, like, boy to girl kid playing on the soccer teams, maybe it was, so they keep getting in the news and stuff like that. Beth also is the one who the town of Nashua allowed there to be this thing where any resident of Nashua could choose the next flag that went up. It was like every month there'd be a flag.
Okay.
And they had like their Nashua maybe or their New Hampshire flag, but they were letting people put up flags, and somebody put up like the pride flag. Like, so that was like an example of something that went up. But she put the Pine Tree Riot flag.
Okay.
Or requested it or whatever. And they denied it and gave her the reasoning that it was like divisive or something like that. So people went out there, including me and Zephin, who's also on the show.
Okay.
It hasn't been in a while. And we flew Pine Tree Riot flags and got the attention of, oh man, I forget what they're called. A free speech advocacy group. And I'm pretty sure Beth won her case. I just don't remember now if she won. But either way.
I am generally a trans ally on most things, excluding sports.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, there's, in my opinion, women's sports exists primarily because women can't compete at the same level as men in most sports.
Yeah, I just don't care about sports so hard that I literally didn't care at all. But one thing about it is that women started getting actually injured. Like, there's a girl that was actually like harmed, like beyond repair, like paralyzed.
Yeah, but that happens to guys in guy sports.
Yeah,
right? Like,
but
that's, you know,
that doesn't
injuries
normally happen to girls in volleyball because someone spiked volleyball.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But but you could have a strong girl, right? Like, especially at lower levels, right? For a long time, my niece was a giant compared to her peers, and she played volleyball, and she had to play like in the age group that she was in, and she was literally like a foot taller and probably 50 pounds heavier than everybody else on the court, and just dominated, you know, at the time. So, and female, right?
Yeah,
not
but did
trans
she
at all.
injure anybody?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I
would
didn't see all
love
the
to
videos.
know, like, how often that happens.
But she was strong enough where at that age group, she could have injured people as a female, you know, attacking other females just because of the size differential at the time. You know, obviously, you know, hormones and age caught up, and she's no longer the giant.
I mean, if she
compared to
played
her
and she
peers.
didn't injure people, I don't know if I just want to accept that as truth, you know?
Okay.
that
I'm
she
just saying that you
could
can have
injure
size
someone.
differentials
Yeah, but
in sports and
it's
still
not
be the
just
same
size.
gender.
It's not about height or something. It's about your body is capable of firing the ball harder and faster.
Yes, and what
than
I'm saying at age
a
12 and age 10 or whatever, age 10 to 12, she was more capable than the other 10 to 12-year-olds because
Maybe.
of her physicals. No, I guarantee it. I promise you.
But you're not saying that you remember she actually paralyzed someone.
She didn't.
so
I know she didn't paralyze anybody.
that's why I just don't know if that's really like oh, well, you can't use that one, you know?
Well, what I'm saying is it had nothing to do with gender, right? She was just bigger, and so if you're just bigger and stronger, then the potential exists, whether or not it actually comes to fruition, right? Like there was oh man, like it was some lacrosse thing or someone got hit with like a lacrosse ball in the back of the head and died at age 16 or whatever. And I forget if it was a male or female, right? But the you know, injuries happen in sports, and that's part of the deal. So I don't
think that if my daughter got paralyzed from a boy spiking a thing, I would just agree like, oh, it could have happened exactly the same if Cindy hit her with a spike. I just don't think I'd agree.
Yeah, but if Cindy was bigger and stronger than all the other females,
then there might actually be a problem there too. Like my sister's boyfriend, he's so tall. He's like, I guess he's Blackfoot native. Maybe that's why he's tall. Maybe he's not that, but he's super tall. And he said that when he was in middle school, they didn't let him play on the football team because he was too much bigger than the other kids. The other boys, not the other, So if a boy hurt another boy because he was just that much taller in that school, they probably would have been able to do something about it,
Maybe. But if they're playing another school, you'd want that kid on your team.
Yeah, but not if he was actually literally injuring people.
Again, there's, if people are equal, they're not free, and if they're free, they're not equal. You can't discriminate just based on size and strength.
No, you absolutely can. That's my whole point. You should be able to discriminate based on this person is dangerously large. Like my sister's boyfriend, it's not like he's like, oh, I am just like torn up to this day about it. Probably just went and did like other things like with his grandpa or whatever.
Well,
there are other things to do other than sports. Trust me.
When it comes to sports, I say that's a weak position then, because if you're big enough and strong enough to dominate, you should.
But there's a difference between just like doing well and harming people.
Well, it depends if it's a contact sport, man. Like doing well in football is harming people. Like you hit people pretty darn hard, right?
Yeah, but there's an amount of harm that's
and
like
hockey.
You basically sign up for that, and there's an amount of harm that's like being paralyzed. That doesn't happen common enough that people are like, that just happens during football. Everybody gets paralyzed during football.
Everyone doesn't get paralyzed, but people do get paralyzed playing football. That is not an uncommon thing.
I don't know that it's common enough that it's exactly the same. If a 6 foot tall boy hits you and you get paralyzed, it's just like, that happened last week. Cindy did that to Jennifer.
Again, not a weekly event, but there's enough paralysis in football where it is an issue.
Now we're talking about something that's like, we need stats in front of us. You're definitely pulling an Aria where Aria is like, well, whatever I say is probably statistically correct, and whatever you say is probably not. Like neither of us have stats in front of us, but I've never met someone who's been like, anyone in my family has been paralyzed playing girl-on-girl volleyball, but yet there is this girl 2 years ago got paralyzed because a boy spiked a ball and hit her in the head so hard she's knocked out on the ground. I said knocked up on the ground. Knocked out on the ground, and now she's paralyzed for life. Right. And it's just like, I don't think that would have happened if that boy wasn't playing volleyball with girls.
That might be true, but that you can't discriminate against other females.
I think I absolutely can and would if I owned a sports team, but the thing
you would stop a dominant female volleyball player from playing just because she's so much better than the rest?
No, not because she's so much better, but because she was so much bigger, especially if it was an age thing. Like the 12-year-olds who most of them have, maybe 12 isn't the right age, but like the 11-year-olds, maybe most of them haven't hit puberty, and maybe one girl just like hit it super early.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind saying, that's going to be an unsafe situation for 90% of my people, but not this one. Like, oh, sorry, you just don't get to play sports. It's not the end of the freaking world. Go do ballet, I
mean, if you were running the sports organization, that's fine, but I think most sports organizations would want that girl to play.
Well,
and dominate.
I have an actual story of it happening the opposite way, and you are just saying you think somebody would want it that way. I don't think most of the parents would want it that way.
But they have the option to take their kid out. It works both ways.
Yeah,
if you're not good enough to compete, then you're the one who should go do something else.
Well, they could. It's not because they're not good enough.
Player.
It's because most people are expected to be around the same age at the same time. But if somebody gets
people are around the same age at the same time,
growth spurt early, that's kind of on, like, sorry, the whole world doesn't revolve around you. And besides, we're not even talking about that. We're talking about a boy wanting to play in high school sports against girls. At that age, boys catch up and then exceed the size of girls.
And one of the first things I said was excluding, I'm an ally excluding sports because I don't want to see it either. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's because of the injuries necessarily, because, again, you can have a dominant female who's bigger, stronger, faster than the rest, who's just better than the average player, and you shouldn't discriminate against them and prevent them from excelling at their sport because nobody else is as good. You're handicapping the best people.
Even remotely like happens often. The thing I was talking about was like somebody who hit puberty or just a growth spurt way before everybody else. But as far as high school,
well, if you want an example, then Caster Semenya, right? The track star. She's like born female, all female. Like completely female, has a naturally higher testosterone. So she's bigger, stronger, and faster than everybody else on the track. Mm-hmm. And they handicap her by saying, well, you have to take testosterone reducers. They have to anti-drug her. No, it's not.
Playing a game,
because she's naturally better.
I'm not playing a
game. She's done
nothing
to enhance herself. she's just better. They go like, well, you're too good.
She's literally on a drug, whether it's endogenous or not. She's literally on a drug.
We have to chemically handicap you so that other people have a chance. And I think in sports, that's nonsense.
How can they even prove that she's not putting on topical testosterone?
Well, now you're speculating because
I'm saying how can she prove to her people that like these are my results and it's not normal? Because the thing is like when you get your hormones tested, your doctor's going to tell you like, oh yeah, there's no way you're getting that done endogenously, like in your own body naturally. Your organs.
I'm going to assume that the doctors have done all the work and that's the conclusion that they came to because that's all the reports that came out.
If there's no way to know that, then I definitely don't blame them. If there's no way to know that, like
if they can find synthetics in everybody else, if she was running on synthetics, they would find it in her.
The thing is, it's not like, oh, this testosterone is natural. This testosterone we tested it and it's not natural. It's the levels. Because basically, when you take a hormone, just shows up in your bloodstream, shows up in your
right, and everyone has come to the agreement on the conclusion based on the test that they did run, she has naturally higher levels, and then in order to compete with the women,
and then everybody's going to just start doing endogenous or exogenous testosterone and being like, oh, it's just natural, bro.
No, because they'll test for it and they'll find that it's not.
No, that's what you don't understand. The thing is, my question is there actually like some kind of way for them to know that there's not? Because I don't see how everybody could just start doing it.
And my answer to you was, I don't know, but I trust every single doctor that has run a test, and they all agree and came to the conclusion that she's just naturally better.
I'm sorry that there's just some people that probably can't do contact sports. There's some people that are way too small to do it. Are we going to be like, no, you can't? That's natural. Bonnie should be able to play contact sports with all these behemoth women.
That's my point.
I've never felt like
Bonnie shouldn't play.
No, it's not your point. Your point is that if something's natural in somebody, then they should just be allowed to play with everybody else, even if it puts everybody else at an advantage. At a disadvantage.
Yes, because it's natural.
Yeah, and if
you're
totally
naturally
natural
weaker,
for me to be like, I was like 85 pounds in high school.
Yes.
So I should just be like, well, since it's natural, I play anyway. Like,
you can try out and you will lose because you don't have it in you to win.
But I'm just saying it's
and
the
what
opposite.
we shouldn't do,
we shouldn't be artificially making it to where normal people can't, on average, play.
No, average people don't play. Sports are for the elite athlete. If you're 85 pounds, you don't get to play. You're the one who goes to take ballet.
That's so out of range that they had to.
No, you go to tryouts. Yes. But you go to tryouts and you don't get picked because you're not good enough. No, right? What you don't do. They should
also be allowed to not pick somebody because they're too, quote unquote, good.
They should be. You're right, but it's dumb because that's not how sports works.
So all you're arguing about right now is like whether or not it's dumb, but I'm talking about like should it be allowed? Like,
and I'm saying
it should
yes,
absolutely be allowed for people to be discriminated against. And you're just saying, well, that's dumb.
Yes.
All right. Then.
Because when it comes to sports, you want the best. And what we shouldn't do is handicap the best because the average person isn't good enough to compete with them.
The thing about it is, if it came to a point of being either completely unfair or endangering
it is completely
the other people,
unfair.
Endangering the other people, like in an irrational amount of way. Like everybody understands there's like a risk at playing a sport, let's say like football. Well, some people are like, I will never let my kid play football because everybody knows there's a risk. But if this takes it way out of bounds from even that, then the people who are running this thing have kind of in my opinion, a responsibility to keep somebody out who's going to legitimately like squish all the other people.
And again, we're going to disagree because I don't think.
But your thing is just saying that's stupid, not saying that it's like right or wrong or anything.
Because you're taking the best person out because they're so much better than the rest.
Yeah, but you're just saying the best. Just because somebody's big doesn't necessarily mean they're the best.
Well, then let them play.
Have you ever tried to move a couch to somebody who's just like a stupid?
If they're not the best, let them play. If they're not the best, let them play regardless of their size.
Running into the walls, like I'm strong. I can move a couch. Running into the walls, breaking holes in the walls. Like they're probably not necessarily the best just because they're bigger, but they could harm somebody more easily.
And if they're not good enough to play, then that's fine. But I'm saying that there's an advantage to being bigger, stronger, and faster than your peers, and you shouldn't be handicapped because of that, especially in sports.
I just think, like, you're calling it be handicapped, and I'm saying
it's a handicap.
Just not be allowed to play. And it's just like, oh, well, like, sorry, you can't play. There's probably kids that have, like, not expelled, but like failed like 3 grades.
Yes. They're not smart enough. You don't put them in charge.
Okay, you don't have to be smart to play football.
Yeah.
You don't have to be smart to play absolutely any sport, basically.
Right. And so you should still let them play football.
Oh, yeah. Pretty sure that most 20-year-olds are just going to be like way too big for, like the average like football players.
But are you talking about like an elementary school league?
No, some of them are still in school.
Okay, then let them play.
I don't think they should be allowed to play.
If they're bigger, stronger, faster than everybody else, that's an advantage, and you don't handicap advantages.
I think that like people who were in high school are too young and dumb, and they think that like football, I'm gonna be in the NFL one day, and they're taking this risk that could literally for the rest of their lives kill them, or not kill. Well, it could kill them, but for the rest of their lives harm them. It could. And it's irresponsible for the adults in the room to be like, we want our school team to win. Oh my god, you're making me flashback to like Texas, like the worst.
Yeah, Texas is good, but my high school for a long time was like number 2 in the nation for football. And I was the water boy because I wasn't good enough or big enough or strong enough or fast enough to play.
That's fine. And that's what I'm in agreement with the giants, 2 small people not being allowed to play.
We were giants compared to like the other high schools because we recruited Samoans.
That makes sense.
It does make sense. But if you're going like, well, the Asian school can't compete with the Samoans, right? So the Samoans aren't allowed to play so the Asians can play football. Again, I don't think you handicap the better in order to make the weak feel better about themselves.
Was that
like Harrison
true?
Bergeron.
Were other people you played against actually like way smaller than your school?
Yes.
Well, I think they should be allowed to agree that they wouldn't play against them.
They didn't have to. They could absolutely forfeit.
That's what I'm saying.
But they don't get to say that we can't play because we're so much bigger, stronger, faster.
That's a whole different team. That's like a whole different scenario.
Who do you think you're going to play against?
Somebody else's team. There's probably more than just one team of Samoans to play against.
Yeah, there was. We've challenged them in the championship, and it was a much closer game.
Another team of Samoans?
Yeah.
Well,
the ones that couldn't afford to go to our school went to the public school, and the ones that got the scholarship to play on our football team got the private school education and the football education.
I also think there's probably a closer comparison between like just some white dude and a Samoan than a girl on the other team, even that's a Samoan, and a Samoan. It's just like...
Yeah, and again, I'll go back to what I said before at the beginning of this conversation, was I'm fine.
I wasn't saying it against you. I was just simply saying...
I don't think women should be playing in men's leagues unless they're good enough. And the fact is that most women aren't good enough to compete in the men's leagues, and so we've established women's leagues for them.
I just think it's like whenever the volleyball thing, or not volleyball, the boxing thing happened at the Olympics last year, where that person was possibly trans, and I've never even had that confirmed.
She wasn't trans. She was intersex.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a difference.
Never had it confirmed, whatever. But when that conversation was going on, so a person that you're saying apparently was intersex was fighting in boxing, I think it was, against a woman and won, and everybody was saying
won the gold.
That a man beat up a woman and all that stuff. I don't remember the names. I don't remember the countries. I was just like, why do people care about this at all? Like, because there are women...
I don't remember her name, but it was Algeria.
Algeria, yeah, you're right. And I don't remember that other country, honestly. But all I was saying back then was like, why do people even care about this when this is something like
because they wanted to make it a trans league.
You're signing up as an adult to get beat up and beat someone else up. You're a woman. You guys just shouldn't be doing this. It's so stupid.
And she won the gold, but she didn't have a perfect record outside of it. And she had been beaten.
I just think it's a little different when it's like kids in schools, and it's like it's what people do in high school at that time. What do you think? Should trans kids be allowed in schools? I mean, in sports?
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click join today.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Global stocks have fallen this Friday on the news that the US plans to impose a blanket 50% tariff on goods coming from the European Union. The announcement from President Donald Trump came before US and EU trade representatives were scheduled to speak. Everton's William Denslow has more from Brussels.
Donald Trump's bombshell announcement comes as the EU has reportedly provided a list of concessions to Washington with the goal of de-escalating trade tensions. According to Politico, the proposal included plans to boost spending in areas such as energy and deepen ties in fields like 5 and 6G technology. But President Trump stated on social media that negotiations aren't progressing, and the US is expected to reject the European Commission's latest proposal. The EU previously had a July deadline to reach a deal before blanket tariffs were scheduled to rise from 10% to 20%. Now it has just a few days before this 50% duty is set to kick in.
Meanwhile, shares in tech giant Apple tumbled on Friday after President Trump demanded its iPhone products be manufactured in the United States. President Trump said the company would face a 25% tariff for any phones made outside the US.
In a Truth Social post hours before markets opened, President Trump wrote, "I have long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their phones that will be sold in the United States of America will be manufactured and built in the United States, not India or any place else. If that is not the case," he wrote, "a tariff of at least 25% must be paid by Apple to the US." At the opening on the New York Stock Exchange on Friday, Apple shares fell more than 3.7%. In recent years, Apple has shifted much of its iPhone production to India because it has a better trading relationship to the United States than China. Some analysts have estimated the cost of moving iPhone production to America would raise the cost of the product by at least 25%, with one estimate suggesting an iPhone could cost $3,500 US.
A judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration over its plan to bar Harvard University from enrolling international students. It came hours after Harvard announced it was suing the government. The ban would affect more than 7,000 students at the elite university and marks the latest clash between the White House and Harvard following its refusal to implement reforms demanded by the government. Israel's Prime Minister has accused the leaders of Britain, France and Canada of being on the wrong side of history on the conflict in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu released a video criticising Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer and Mark Carney after the attack on Israeli embassy staff in Washington, D.C. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And the largest libertarian camping festival, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, is being held at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire this June 16th through the 22nd. PorcFest is the flagship annual event of the Free State Project. This year will feature speakers like Jacob Hornberger of the Future of Freedom Foundation, who's going to discuss Ian Freeman's case, Bob Murphy, Joel Salatin, and our own Jay Noon. Come the weekend before, June 13th through the 15th, for the laid-back pre-PorcFest decentralized party, ForkFest, as well. You can go to porcfest.com, that's PorcFest with a P as in Paul, And you can also go to forkfest.party. That's forkfest with an F as in fire truck. I wrote that, but that's still going to mess me up at some point. So porkfest.com and then forkfest.party to learn more, and we hope to see you there. With you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich.
And Free Talk Live is a call-in talk show that anyone can bring up whatever is on your mind. That's the point. So if you'd like to get in on the conversation with us, bring up something that's on your mind, or change the subject, or tell us we're wrong about what we're talking about, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. That number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And New Jersey is being a hellhole, as it has always been. I'm sure I can say hellhole on the air.
It's the Garden State.
The Garden State. Yeah, I always have heard that, and I never thought it was any more green or beautiful than, like, honestly, the next state around here. You know, like, everything's green around here.
I feel like the most famous thing about New Jersey is its proximity to New York.
Right. That's one thing I think about. I think of Jersey Shore, and that was, you know, I was in middle school when Jersey Shore was the thing, so.
I've unfortunately seen some episodes.
I've seen a lot. Me and my friends used to have, like, sleepovers to watch new ones and stuff. It was an entertaining show. I'll say that. I'm gonna use the term coerced loosely, but I was coerced into watching it because I would go over to my buddy's house to hang out, and his girlfriend would be watching it, and so like that's what's on, man. That's it was just a fascinating train wreck. It's like none of me and my friends wanted to be like them. It was just funny,
all right,
and so stupid. But
I still only remember Snooki.
Snooki, yeah.
Okay.
That's the main one I remember. Even all the men are like the same to me. I remember Snooki and Sammy and the one that called herself Meatball.
There was one dude that had like a title instead of a name.
The Situation.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So I remember that about New Jersey, and I also think of it as being like a statist hellhole.
Yeah.
During COVID, some people that came up here to visit, there were tons of people that came up to New Hampshire to visit during COVID. That's when I moved here, and the stories that I would hear from all the different states, there were multiple different states that had it really bad. I feel like my stories from just like San Antonio were pretty bad. People thought Texas was probably great, but the cities were not. But one of the worst ones was New Jersey. People were getting their kids taken away for not masking their kids and stuff like that.
Wasn't the New Jersey where the gym owner like protested against it?
Ian Smith.
Okay.
Yep, for his Attilas gym.
All right, good memory.
He went and opened his gym up when the state had closed it. We do have a caller in line, so we'll get into why New Jersey is statist and a hellhole and horrible whenever after we talk to this caller, unless he wants to talk about how New Jersey is a hellhole. Caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Jersey Shore is the greatest show of all time.
What? No, it's not.
Yes, it is. And Snooki and Sammy Sweetheart makes my PV hard, and so did the other one. I forget what her name was. Jen.
The Situation?
Deanna. The one that called herself Meatball. She was Deanna or Dina or something.
I think there was another one.
Really? Angelina? Angelina was prettier than Deanna.
No, it's the one that lived with Snooki.
Oh, JWoww. Yeah.
You know way too much names.
I'm telling you, I actually watched the show.
I believe you.
Yeah, it was a good show for the chicks.
No, I don't think anybody seriously thought that. Like, I don't think anybody was like, yeah, they're so hot.
You think dudes were watching for other dudes? Or you don't think dudes were watching the show?
I feel like mostly women were watching. Maybe some dudes were being coerced like you. And maybe there were some dudes liked her that thought they were hot. I don't know. I think JWoww was actually like a pretty person. And I actually think Snooki is pretty today. She wasn't back then. And they were just disgusting. Like, you probably ground zero for new diseases.
Well, she had big boobs, but I was going to say though that Sammy was probably the hottest one out of all of them. Sammy Sweetheart, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, she was the one that went away first, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like a bunch of them went away though, you know. Or
yeah.
If you put up names and faces, I would not be able to match any of this.
Not even Snooki?
Maybe not anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Current day Snooki looks very different.
I think the only reason Snooki sticks out to me, number one, because of her name, and I think she made a few appearances for like WWE.
Oh, I thought you were going to say South Park.
No, because I foolishly self-boycotted South Park a long time ago, and I regret that.
Yep. She was like a monster that would say like, Snooki wants snoo and try to have intercourse with people.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty
Turd's
funny.
type of girl.
Great episode.
Turd's type, right? That's how the average person
Well, I
thought
don't-
of Snooki, and Turd was like, "Well, she's so hot."
Well, she was short and had really big boobs. That's what I like. I like feminine. I'm attracted to feminine women, you know. But I still think Sammy was the hottest one. Bonnie, I heard you got bolt-ons. That's the word on the street.
What does that mean?
Like fake boobs.
No, wait. Ball pongs? I've never heard that term.
Bolt.
Bolt-ons?
Oh, bolt-ons.
I don't know what that means either.
Nope. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Take my call.
You really had nothing else to talk about? Oh my goodness. So ridiculous.
Just keep an eye on the camera.
Yeah. But in New Jersey, there's more that makes it a hellhole than just Jersey Shore.
So eminent domain issues.
Oh no.
New Jersey town says small setbacks and stray cats allow it to seize private property. Two business owners say the city of Perth Amboy is using exceedingly flimsy blight allegations to take and potentially demolish their property. Honey Mirzon's parents are Jews from the Soviet Union who moved to the United States in the 1970s to escape religious discrimination. Luis Romero's parents fled Castro's Cuba while he was 8 years old. The two ended up as neighboring business owners at the corner of Smith and Herbert Street in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. It's there that Romero has been running his family's tire shop, Quick Tire, for the past 20 years. Mirzon has owned the 4-unit rental property next door for the past 10. Now, these two children of refugees from communism are having their businesses taken from them by the all-too-American process of eminent domain.
Wow.
Last
And
month,
they escaped communism for that?
it's weird, right? Because like you think of communism, and then you see pictures of like China, where they, you know, they're building like a massive structure or a highway, and there's like one holdout house, and they just can't get it because they don't have eminent domain laws.
In China?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that happens?
And they're respectful of it.
Whoa.
So this whole structure goes up around this like tiny house, and they just can't do it. And you know, in America, they would have just crushed that dude.
Yeah.
But like, oh, those are the communists over there. Last month, the city council of Perth Amboy voted that Mirzon and Romero's properties were not, in fact, comfortable homes or a successful business, but are rather blighted hazards. Because the two buildings are too close together, too close to the street, and have some sign-collected litter and stray cats in the backyard, the city says it's now entitled to take the properties. Mirzon and Romero... Go ahead.
Just because there is stray cats and what else in the yard?
So the buildings are too close together, and they're too close to the street.
Mm-hmm.
So like, however
That makes them not cozy?
well, makes them a hazard,
Oh.
according to the city.
I was going to say, if coziness levels, that's kind of subjective, but...
Right.
Okay.
But like, if it's number one, if it's too close to the street, who the city had to authorize that initial permit, you would assume.
Yeah.
Right. So then, no, you're fine building there.
Did the city build the street closer to their front door? Because they're actually starting to do that at another property of ours in Keene.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For freaking bike lanes, and I've never even seen a bike driving there.
I once got my car towed because they put up a temporary no parking sign in front of my car, and then just like towed it.
Whoa.
And then
Was that in New Hampshire?
No.
In Hawaii?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had to pay to get my car back from impound, but I got the ticket dismissed. But like I didn't get my money back from impound.
That's horrible.
I did, however, steal their sign. Like the fold up road sign with the yellow blinking light or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I kept that as restitution payment.
Oh my god.
So I don't know. I might have thrown it out when I moved here, but I was like, screw you guys. You're not putting up a sign and then towing my car. So
And then they couldn't use it on other people.
well, I mean, they have infinite amount of signs, but still, I kept that one. That one was mine. The Mirzon and Romero strongly object to the idea that their properties are in any way blighted. They argue that the city's report claiming otherwise is riddled with erroneous complaints and fatal factual errors. Nevertheless, the city has moved forward with seizing their properties, which sit right on the edge of a massive city-facilitated warehouse project. Both property owners now face a looming deadline at the end of May, so coming up, to file a lawsuit challenging the seizure. They refuse to answer our calls. They refuse to answer any of our lawyers, said Mirzon. They're waiting for us to go to Superior Court to monetarily drain us until we have no choice but to take whatever they offer us.
Wow.
Neither Perth Amboy's mayor nor any member of the city council responded to Reason's request for comment. Both Mirzon and Romero see a dark irony in their properties being seized by the city, given their family's background. My parents said this is the only way you get on your feet. You have to take a risk. You have to make an investment. You have to leave a legacy for your children, Mirzon tells Reason. This is what happens to the legacy they dreamt of having coming here.
It's so horrible that it used to be that you could just make a business in America and better your life and your family's lives, and you didn't have to have that much money to start it. And now they have made it to where that's really hard to do because all of these fees and taxes that you have to start up a business at all, and all these regulations where you might just not be allowed to ever do that business, period. And now they're just going to take the land from these people for...
I will say this before you press that button. At least moving to New Hampshire, even though it's a fee you pay to the state, right? You can form an LLC for like $100. And so starting a business, at least in that respect, fairly simple to do here.
I don't know if it's really way more expensive than other states. I just don't know.
Okay.
But when some friends of mine started a business, there was just so many things, and they had to like meet older people who had businesses to even figure out what some of them were.
Right.
That's the most.
And I just filled out a form online, paid my $100, and have like, I'm going to call it defunct now because I haven't really used it in several years. But
it might depend on like what the business is too, like what things you have to do. What things you have to pay?
Maybe later, but to just to start a business. So like I'm now an LLC, $100 and like 15 minutes online.
Well, we do have a caller on the line, so let's see what they have to say. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Thanks for taking my call. I was going to say, it sounds like a Jersey thing, right? I don't know. Maybe there's some mob connections involved there, with the city. Maybe some bribing. I'm not 100% sure.
There's a gang involved.
Maybe, a warehouse thing going on there, something to do with a warehouse. It kind of makes me think of the mafia or something. Maybe possibility. I think of The Sopranos when I think of New Jersey. But
the problem is, if it was a mafia thing, they just would have like extorted them directly, right? Like the mafia can't use eminent domain.
No, they're trying to get out of the business. They're trying to go legit.
Okay.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point, right?
Okay.
Maybe all of the mafia joined the gang called the government.
No, it might be New Jersey. There was some state where they literally elected a former mafia guy, like a mafia hitman or something. You keep talking. I'll see if I can find it. Was it New Jersey?
Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you for the call.
Never mind.
Yeah, I mean there is a gang involved.
Yeah, it's the government. Yeah.
I'm sure there's been more than one state that's elected a mob or mafia.
Illinois.
Member. Yeah, wasn't that there were like that crackhead guy in Illinois?
I don't remember exactly, but what's the governor? Rod Blagojevich or whatever. I think that's the one that was accused of having mafia or mob connections.
Yeah, the whole idea behind eminent domain is just insane because they have their little justifications and they get to decide if those justifications are justified, and then they just get to take your stuff. They get to take your things and your property, and they never have to give them back to you if it's found out that, it wasn't really justified.
And even if you want to be like a constitutionalist about it, like the plain words in the Constitution regarding eminent domain are very clear, and yet the Supreme Court in Kelo versus New London, which was the Pink House, down in Connecticut, altered the meanings of the words to allow for more things like this, more taking advantage of this.
That case caused that?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know.
Because I'm trying to remember the exact terminology. The terminology in the Constitution is like public use. So it has to be like, whatever you're taking it for has to be, like they're encroaching on your Keene building, right, to build a road. Well, presumably the road is for everybody, right? So they're going to get away with that one because this is public use. In Kelo versus New London, they said they changed it from public use to public benefit, and they weren't taking it for public use. They were taking it to give the land to a private organization who would more efficiently use that land and therefore pay more taxes to the city, and that was for the public benefit. Because now the city would be taking in more income that they could then use for public projects, but that particular piece of parcel was not for public use. It was for the public benefit, and that's what changed. So
and that's what's so crazy. It's just like that. Just because people could get jobs there, it's just so subjective about what is public benefit.
Well, yes, but public use seems very clear. Like roads.
More clear, yeah.
More clear, yeah. Roads. If they were putting up like a city building or something, like a town hall, I'm not agreeing with it, but I could understand the justification based on like the public use theory. Fine, you're going to extend the sidewalk onto the property as for sidewalks for public use. But if you're gonna take the property,
everybody gets to use it. But
and everyone gets to use
Pfizer, I think it was moving into
that's the one that was public benefit.
Yeah, it's like
because they were giving it to a private organization, Pfizer, just to get more taxes.
Most people could say, "Yeah, I don't benefit from this," just because Pfizer's in the same town as me.
Well, that's the long justification. So Pfizer, you don't benefit directly because you're not going to be able to walk into Pfizer's building, right, unattended or like you would on a sidewalk or on the road.
Yep.
But again, the town would collect more tax revenue, and that was public benefit.
That's just insane. And it's just like just because Keene, New Hampshire collects more taxes I don't think it necessarily has to directly affect and help me. I don't think it does. I mean, is Keene going to cut down on my property taxes because they made more money with X, Y, or Z deal they did? Probably not.
Probably not.
That would be the only way I could really see why or how they could prove that, yeah, you definitely are benefiting from this, as if they cut my property taxes directly.
Right. Well, and as a libertarian / anarchist, whatever label you want to use, right, anytime you're giving the state more money is not a good thing.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I could probably prove that it benefits me less if they start going after you for parking ticket, blah, blah, blah.
Right. If the state has more income to use, not for you, then they're obviously going to use it against you to rip you off more.
And that's why
in some form or fashion.
Democrats absolutely love that that type of language. They can get people on their side by using that language because it's like the public good, the greater good is what they always love to say. Like there's actually signs in New Hampshire, I don't know if it's a national thing, but I've seen it in New Hampshire, that Democrats will put in their yard that say Democrats for the greater good.
Yep. At the expense of the individual.
Yep.
Yep.
Just absolutely brainwashing propaganda. We do have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to the calls and see what you have on your mind. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Why is this unscreened? I called from my home phone. This is Gigi.
Oh, I just didn't go to the screening page right now.
Okay.
That's all. Hi,
no,
Gigi.
I don't do star 67 when I call Free Talk Live.
I bet you'd star 69 if the captain was here, though.
Ridiculous.
Aren't you adorable? You got that right, honey.
See?
Well, this is Gigi from South Carolina.
So cute. You know me, don't you? Wherever the captain is in his RV wandering about the countryside, I wish him a safe journey, and I miss his contributions very much. I adored him.
Gallivanting, as he liked to say.
Well,
would you say he was very professional, Gigi?
I beg your pardon?
Would you say the captain was very professional as a host of Free Talk Live?
He had a wicked sense of humor.
All right.
But he was very bright. I loved his I loved that he had a great sense of humor. He was into current events like me, and I learned a lot from him on economics and business like I do with you, because I don't have a background in that, and I like to listen and learn from people. Can't know everything in life.
Unless you're Donald Trump.
At Social Sunday, I was talking to people at the table, and we were all saying, like, yes, there were tons of people that Captain was their favorite show to watch and everything, and I don't know why Penguins seems to think he was, quote, unprofessional. I don't know. I
don't share that opinion.
Right.
I don't share that opinion
I think
at all.
That Penguin just compares everyone to Ian and Mark, and that's all. You know, like, there are people who, like, nothing will ever get better than their favorite X, Y, or Z thing, and it's, like, nostalgic to them.
Yes.
And I think that's what it is for Penguin.
I'm there, too, right? Like Mark and Ian, or Ian and Mark are 1 and 2.
You know that.
Yeah.
You're always a gentleman. You have a wonderful, open, and inclusive mind, except when it comes to the death penalty.
What?
I said you have a wonderful, open, and progressive mind.
Okay.
Except you once made a comment about the death penalty,
okay.
which I disagreed with you, but you are entitled to your opinion.
Okay. Do you want, I mean, if you want to talk about it, I'm more than happy to rediscuss it. I'm not sure.
No, sir, that's not why I called.
All right.
We can respectfully disagree. In any event, isn't it wonderful that 7 of the justices, including the Supreme Court justice, voted commenting specifically on what I said when I called last week regarding the lack of due process and the critical importance of habeas corpus pertaining to this administration's reinstating the 1789 Alien and Sedition Act. Deport, 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 guilty prior to any type of time in court to plead your case and hear what a charge or charges are levied against you.
Yeah.
I am a happy woman today.
So I did read an article on this, and one of the positions raised or concerns raised was that when in making their decision, like I think you're right, they got the decision right, but they left some things like ambiguous. So they said like,
oh, I agree
okay.
with you. Yes, but I think there was a reason as to why.
Okay, go on.
And again, it's just my opinion. I could be wrong, both technically as well as legally. I feel that the ambiguous... Wait, am I saying it right?
Ambiguity.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The ambiguity was purposely left blank in terms of broad general because they took it on an emergency appeal, but many of the justices made comments in the oral arguments. This should have gone through the proper appellate channels.
Okay. So you think they'll revisit it then? Because what you don't want from the Supreme Court is ambiguity. Like it's got to be cut and dry when they make their decisions. So you know.
I think it'll go back down to the lower courts. I could be wrong, and you could be correct.
I just don't like ambiguity when it comes from the Supreme Court. Right?
Yeah, we will see what unfolds.
Okay.
So did we find out why? Oh, well, we can talk about it in the next segment. Thank you for the call, Gigi, and I really appreciate her bringing that subject up. I didn't have it in show prep, and definitely needs to be talked about. Trump was at least toying with the idea of suspending habeas corpus, and I could see him saying, oh, it's an invasion. So let's talk about it. 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever's on your mind. It's Free Talk Live. More Free Talk Live coming up. Don't go anywhere. 603-283-6160.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 2 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Global stocks have fallen this Friday on the news that the US plans to impose a blanket 50% tariff on goods coming from the European Union. The announcement from President Donald Trump came before US and EU trade representatives were scheduled to speak. Everton's William Denslow has more from Brussels.
Donald Trump's bombshell announcement comes as the EU has reportedly provided a list of concessions to Washington with the goal of de-escalating trade tensions. According to Politico, the proposal included plans to boost spending in areas such as energy and deepen ties in fields like 5 and 6G technology. But President Trump stated on social media that negotiations aren't progressing, and the US is expected to reject the European Commission's latest proposal. The EU previously had a July deadline to reach a deal before blanket tariffs were scheduled to rise from 10% to 20%. Now it has just a few days before this 50% duty is set to kick in.
Meanwhile, shares in tech giant Apple tumbled on Friday after President Trump demanded its iPhone products be manufactured in the United States. President Trump said the company would face a 25% tariff for any phones made outside the US.
In a Truth Social post hours before markets opened, President Trump wrote, "I have long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their phones that will be sold in the United States of America will be manufactured and built in the United States, not India or any place else. If that is not the case," he wrote, "a tariff of at least 25% must be paid by Apple to the US. At the opening on the New York Stock Exchange on Friday, Apple shares fell more than 3.7%. In recent years, Apple has shifted much of its iPhone production to India because it has a better trading relationship to the United States than China. Some analysts have estimated the cost of moving iPhone production to America would raise the cost of the product by at least 25%, with one estimate suggesting an iPhone could cost $3,500 US.
A judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration over its plan to bar Harvard University from enrolling international students. It came hours after Harvard announced it was suing the government. The ban would affect more than 7,000 students at the elite university. It marks the latest clash between the White House and Harvard following its refusal to implement reforms demanded by the government. Israel's Prime Minister has accused the leaders of Britain, France and Canada of being on the wrong side of history on the conflict in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu released a video criticising Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer and Mark Carney after the attack on Israeli embassy staff in Washington, D.C. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks with more today on the agreement signed by the UK to hand the Chagos Islands over to Mauritius. The islands, an archipelago in the Indian Ocean, will now become sovereign territory of Mauritius, but the UK will continue leasing a military base on Diego Garcia, the largest of the islands. That's a move that the Trump administration has welcomed after earlier expressing grave concern about the possibility of losing access to the strategically important base. But Beatrice Pomp, one of the Chagosians who brought a series of legal challenges, argues that at no point were the islanders themselves consulted about their future and says she now fears she will never see her homeland again.
The British government has not consulted me or any of the Chagosians, and I am a native from Diego Garcia, and with the deal, I will not be allowed on Diego Garcia. In an ideal world, we will be given our human rights. We will be allowed to go to our place of birth without any sanctions, without any law against us. like anyone else.
For the UK, the deal closes a complex chapter that has seen it accused of riding roughshod over the islanders' wishes, but also causing friction with the White House. Mauritius hailed the deal as a great victory that brings a long-simmering colonial-era dispute to a close. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, global stocks have fallen on the news that the US plans to impose a blanket 50% tariff on goods coming from the European Union. It comes as shares in the tech giant Apple have tumbled after President Trump demanded its iPhone products be manufactured in the US. And a judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration over its plan to bar Harvard University from enrolling international students. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Our very own Tracy met farmer Ray Kimball, who says that his horse, Franklin, has the ability to speak full sentences.
When did you first realize he could talk?
Well, I'd hear him saying things when I was sleeping, and then I'd go out to the barn and we'd have some real conversations.
Can we talk to Franklin?
He can't wait to meet you. Say hi, Franklin. What's that? That's a good one.
What did he say?
He said, "Who's the pretty lady?"
Aw. Franklin, do you like living on the farm?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Did he say something?
Tracy, you live here now.
I spent a cozy night at Ray's farmhouse in a room he called the altar. I learned that the farmer has a whole lot more on his mind than just a talking horse.
You are my beloved.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160, and Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich.
And we really didn't spend enough time on the fact that this town in New Jersey is taking property from people for such silly reasons, because they can basically make up anything because they've made the parameters so large and vague.
Right.
And one of the reasons is that stray cats, like, in
the backyard,
live in the property,
right.
Live on the on the land. It's like stray cats don't just live in any one yard; they go all over.
Yeah.
They probably like sat around for hours, like, "Oh, what can we get on these people?" And a cat goes by, and they're like, "Yo, there's something, stray cat in the yard."
Right.
I mean, stray cats walk through my yard all the time, but I don't have one.
And the other two, right? There was like there's three main things. The stray cats was one of them. The other one was too close together and too close to like the edge of the property, right, to the road. Yeah. And the point for those is like, well, again, I don't think they built this without getting a permit. Mm-hmm. Right. So someone from the city went like, yeah, no problem.
Yep.
Check.
At some
you
point.
can do it at some point. Right. So to come back and say like, well, it's too close to the road.
Then we could just take it.
And we can take it now. Like, dude, you let them put it too close. The time to address that was when they were getting the permit.
Yeah, what thing that you've gotten a permit for can the government just come and say, well, now we could take your whole property because you did this thing that you got a permit for?
Clearly, because they're doing it in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
My parents said, back to the article, my parents said this is the only way you get on your feet. Oh, I read that one already. This is what happens to the legacy they dreamt of having come here. The reason my parents left Cuba.
What country was it? Oh, Cuba.
One of them was from Cuba. I forget where the other one was from. I can scroll up in a minute.
Another hellhole.
Right.
Communist hellhole.
The reason my parents left Cuba is the system, how it was. They just come to your home, say, we want this property. You have to get out, says Romero. Here, it's done legally. Make way for getaway. In April 2024, Perth Amboy Mayor Helman Kaba and members of the city council gathered a few houses down from Mirzan and Romero's properties on Smith Street for a little demolition work. The occasion was a press conference to announce the beginning of the city's Gateway redevelopment project. For 2 decades, Perth Amboy has been plotting a conversion of the town's waterfront and former industrial areas into a more desirable mix of apartments, recreational space, and logistics businesses. Gateway, a joint project between the city's redevelopment agency and Denver-based developer Viridian Partners, was the latest stage in this massive government-led reinvention of Perth Amboy. So again, much like the Kilo case, not for public use, right? For private use that they're going to justify by saying public benefit because, it's so much more beautiful here now with this redevelopment.
That's ridiculous. Even beauty is
subjective.
In a way, subjective.
No, it's objective.
I think that it's at least partially objective, but I mean, then there's like opinion does, weigh in. It's like I could say that I think it's more beautiful in the desert than the green, lush river.
Like
no one can argue that. Yeah.
Too bad he already called in, but Turd Ferguson has definitely different beauty standards than other people.
Yeah, he loves Snooki.
Right.
That's his number one fave.
Okay. But symmetry is a big part of it. When they go like, when we're measuring objective beauty, symmetry is a big part of it. But I also had like a buddy once tell me, he's like, Rich, I know your type. I'm like, what's my type? He's like, dude, you like tall, white, ugly chicks. I'm like,
What?
okay. I'm like, I don't think they're ugly. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all like you're like,
subjective.
ooh, ugly chicks.
Yeah, no.
I wonder if anybody is.
No, again, not to me. But to him, yes. Except the one time. So I was working with him at a salad restaurant, and this chick that I thought was hot, she was a model. Like she had modeled in like car magazines. And he comes walking out of the back area with the clean dishes to put away because he was doing the dishwasher duties, and he like stared at her and just froze, like just complete like like eyes and mouth agape,
Glazed over.
Glazed I'm
over.
like, dude, you obviously think she's hot too. Like you can't tell me that she's ugly and then like that's your reaction to seeing her walk in is to just freeze in your spot.
Dang.
And he did not like me bringing that up in front of his girlfriend.
Uh-oh.
But whatever.
Get in front of his girlfriend.
Of course I did, because screw that guy. Telling me like, I know your type. And like, dude, you were checking her out too.
Yeah, everybody you date is ugly.
Right.
Well, do you want to go to the phones?
Sure, we can pause.
We have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to an unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I do not like
now I regret saying
and
this.
ham. I do not like them. Sam I Am. Logic in One Lesson by Dr. Seuss Hazlitt.
What color is the ham?
It was green, right? If
I don't know.
remember.
Is it?
Have you read the book?
I've read the book, clearly.
I want to make absolutely sure, but
But
I'm
not
pretty
talking
sure
about
it's green.
I'm not talking about like the illustration in the book. I'm talking about when you hear the phrase green eggs and ham, what color is the ham?
Well, I would think green. Yeah,
Okay.
it's green in the book too. I just made
Okay.
sure.
So if you wanted green eggs and normal colored ham, how would you phrase that?
Oh, I see. Green eggs and normal colored ham. I imagined it green, eggs and ham.
So
I think that's how I've always thought
an
of it.
appropriate use of a comma
Green
then.
distributes.
What's that?
The green distributes. It's green eggs and ham, not green eggs and ham.
Right. So my question has always been, if you wanted green eggs and normal colored ham, how would you phrase that differently?
I don't see why you would put a comma.
Green
I think it
eggs
would just, you
and
wouldn't
ham.
be able to know until someone clarified.
So where's the comma, Skeeter? After eggs, green eggs, comma, and ham?
I don't think it's
it's not
appropriate
formal,
for any...
So an Oxford comma would be necessary.
No, an Oxford comma is
It's
when
not
there's
formal,
more
so
than...
it's ambiguous.
Yeah, when there's more than one thing. Or, sorry, more than two things.
But this is the whole point. This is why you don't read Dr. Seuss for logic.
But this is not what I wanted to talk about.
Clearly not.
And beauty is objective. You know that, right?
I think we just covered that as both objective and subjective.
And there are some people that go out there and say, like, it's 100% subjective. And I think that idea is too, like soaked into the culture. Lots of people are like, it's just completely subjective. No, it's not. It's not completely subjective.
Well, it's culturally
That's where
objective.
the actual argument is.
Yeah.
But with him, he's going to be like, it's actually 100% objective. That's so stupid.
Not quite. Not quite. You know what the solution is? Short-run beauty is subjective, but long-run beauty, what we're forced to be attracted to is objective.
What you're forced to be attracted to.
Yeah, we're forced to be attracted to what.
Well, he has a dominatrix.
What's morality? But hey, Rich, this is not
how are you forced to be attracted to anything? I feel like that just comes naturally.
Did you have a choice to be attracted to guys, Rich? Did you? No. Okay, so this is not what I want to talk about. Hey,
okay, I don't feel forced to be attracted to females, though. I feel like that's like
forced.
Yeah.
Skeeter's like, I was forced. I didn't want it to be this way.
Okay, then change your preference for guys, Rich. I dare you. I dare you.
Okay.
But hey, Rich, you were wrong about tariffs. Did you realize that? Now you see how raising tariffs in the short run can lower tariffs in the long run. You admit you're wrong now that China and U.S. are on the verge of negotiations?
No.
You see it's at least possible, right?
What Trump admitted from the beginning was that he was using it. Trump was using it as a negotiating tool. I acknowledge that. But
no, you didn't. You just said, "Oh, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. It's stupid. It's stupid." And I said, hey,
yes, because the American consumer is still worse off.
No, they're not.
Right? Trump came out and said, well, maybe the kids don't need 30 dolls.
Yeah.
Maybe they can live with 2. It's a tacit admission that his policies make people financially worse off.
In the short run, if they manage to negotiate, like, let's say, 0 tariffs for a longer period of time than the period that they increased the tariffs for, we experience a net benefit. We get cheaper dolls for a longer time than we get more expensive dolls relative to if we did nothing, right? You need to learn how to do game theory, boy. But this is not what I want to talk about, right?
Again, you're terrible at game theory, too.
Is it actually true that it's at all possible that we're going to get cheaper anything out of this? Because I don't see the way.
No, because he's still keeping the tariffs at like 80%.
And it also seems like he's just trying to steal the language from like Malay, like, oh, short-term pain for long-term benefit, but Malay was doing things like deregulation,
right.
Actually cutting out the government.
Yes. And the short-term pain from Malay's deregulation was for people who were addicted to government payouts. Like they're going to experience pain.
The only problem with like tit for tat is you're not truly working with rational actors in this case because they're like government people. And that's the problem with government. It's not central planning.
When you say rational, do you mean like rational or do you mean irrational?
Well, this case, so the Austrians use rational in a heterodox sense. That is crazy stupid. I never want to use that term. Rational means you're in line with profitability and evolution. That's truly rational.
That's your definition of rational.
That's the conventional sense of rational.
Okay.
When you're profit maximizing, and especially when you incorporate my evolutionary analysis, that's morality. That's rationality. It converges with being moral. But this is not what I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about...
You brought up like 3 things you don't want to talk about.
Well, I beat you on all 3 so far, so I deserve a 4th.
Beat
right? Privacy. I was talking about in the chat. Someone said money is the root of all evil, but that's wrong.
That's not even the whole quote.
Isn't it the love of money?
Yes.
The love of money is the root of all evil.
Well, that's wrong too. It's privacy that's the root of all evil.
Wow, that's stupid.
You realize that, right? It is. It's privacy.
What about the evil that's done right in the open? Can't be the root of that. I said, what about the evil that's done right in the open? It can't be the evil. The root of that evil.
Yes, just think about it, Bonnie. First off, it's hard to execute. It's hard to execute a crime if everyone knows everything up to that point and where you are at all.
Too bad it happens. So the fact that happens destroys your argument. I beat you. It's over.
How does one go murdering? How does one go, like if I wanted to murder Richie Rich, which I do, right? When you have a completely transparent society with SkeeterNet and the LightNet, where everyone knows about everything, you're tracked everywhere you go, all your history is known, all your disputes are known, virtually your thoughts are known. How am I going to murder Rich?
Become a cop or join the military.
The cops do it so often that if you listen to any of those true crime podcasts, they're constantly saying like, oh my god, the cops knew about this, that, and the cops knew this was going to happen. They did nothing to stop it. They're always begging for more cops and more regulations, and it's like, well, the people that didn't stop it are going to stop it if you just beg them to.
Someone asked me that recently, like, how do you get away with murder? I'm like, just join the military or become a cop. Like, that's the easy answer.
You can't do that. How are you going to do that with no privacy?
They do it with impunity now.
And
with body cams on.
Like, I've switched one of my positions. Well, I've actually just altered it slightly, but I think privacy can destroy democracy itself. It's not even accelerationism maybe the second half of the strategy, but privacy, if you destroy privacy right now by creating the light net, right? Skeeter net, where everybody is almost forced to participate. It's voluntary at first, but so imagine this, right? So my vision is for the light net, right? It's the opposite of the dark net. It's where all information is available for anybody, all history, any revision to any website, all that stuff is there for everyone to see, all your medical records. So at first, you have to opt in, right? At first, of course, because it has to work. It's like a virus, right? It has to work.
Yes, your idea is like a virus.
System. Yes, and it'll spread like one because evolution will select for it, right? Once, and
then it will die like one.
Adopting it,
because that's also evolutionary.
But this is where the money's. So a light net. The light net will serve all major infrastructure for any economy. Imagine this: Skeeterpedia, Skeeter Bay, right, and Skeeter Coin, right?
I feel like this is the plot to Hot Tub Time Machine, where he goes back in time and like creates Lugal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, watch it. Put that on the list, Bonnie.
Well, I'm talking about the ultimate form of the internet.
You're talking about the ultimate form of like openness and non-privacy, but it's opt-in, so I've already opted out and I'm not part of it. So
if we're still talking about is it the root of all evil, and you're saying privacy is, somebody can decide in the middle of walking down the street that they want to kill somebody and do it right there in the open. So your
and they do it in New York.
Yeah,
it's just over.
It would have to be. It would almost
just
have to be random, though, Bonnie. I mean, no one.
Most murders are random.
That's not true.
Huh?
No. Oh yeah. Wait, it's the opposite. Sorry. Most murders are calculated already. My bad.
Yeah, or acts of passion.
Passion, so they wouldn't like happen.
That would be hard to do, right?
But there are lots of random murders happening all the time recently. So
yes.
Not most, but it actually happens pretty often.
First off, even if you could get away with a random murder, you couldn't. I mean, even if you could execute a random murder,
it doesn't. You're just trying to change the subject again because I didn't say anything about somebody getting away with it. It's like the evil is done when that person's murdered, unless you disagree because you want to murder Richie Rich.
Like a school shooting.
That's what I'm saying.
They know who it is. It happens way too often.
That one in New York, that person said he just went to a store and said there's too many black people and started shooting. Yeah.
What? Yeah, but imagine.
I'm just kind of done with this conversation. It's boring.
Bye.
Bye, Skeeter. You're boring. Doesn't really even matter if we decide that the root of all evil is something else other than what it is. It's just like
the root of all evil is privacy. So if you eliminate privacy, then you eliminate evil. But that's clearly not the case.
Yep.
Because again, my example of cops and military, right? They kill and rape and murder with impunity already. And there's no privacy. They just get away with it.
Yep.
And if you want, if there's if you're worried about repercussions, right? Like school shooters, the random attacks, like during COVID when people in New York were just we're just going to bash people who are Asian.
Oh, yeah.
Just because they happen to be Asian.
Yeah.
Right? The privacy is not going to prevent that, or lack of privacy is not going to prevent that.
Yeah.
They're just, it's random, man.
There's cameras everywhere in New York.
That's one of, libertarians, anarchists, whatever, we get accused of wanting a utopian society where none of this bad stuff happens. It's no, we want the voluntarism. We want people to obey the non-aggression principle, but that doesn't mean that those random acts of violence aren't going to occur. There just has to be ways to prevent it or, adjudicate after the fact.
And also just there shouldn't be a framework for people to opt into doing bad stuff and not get with impunity.
Right. You wouldn't have that.
Honestly, I believe that there would still be bad things happening, but it would naturally happen less often.
Yep. And
that there wouldn't be this unnatural system where people have an incentive to do bad things.
Right. Once you form a government based on those coercive tenets, right, you guarantee that there's going to be some violence and coercion in the system.
Well, we hung up on Skeeter, but 603-283-6160 is the phone number if you'd like to bring up whatever's on your mind. Tell us we're wrong about what we're saying, or you could totally change the subject. It's up to you because it's Free Talk Live, but more from this story about this company in New Jersey that the government is just working with to steal land from people whose parents came here from Cuba and escaped communism, and they just wanted to create a business and make better lives for themselves. Well, now communist New Jersey is going to take their business's land.
I'm going to say fascist New Jersey.
Yeah.
Because they're giving it to private industry.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're working together.
Gateway, a joint project between the city's redevelopment agency and Denver-based developer Viridian Partners, was the latest stage in this massive government-led reinvention of Perth Amboy. Viridian Partners had promised to invest $110 million in cleaning up the 44-acre Gateway site that would eventually become a massive warehouse and parkland. But first, some old buildings on the edge of the site had to be torn down. This key entrance to our city, once tarnished by decay, is now the focal point of our redevelopment efforts.
And that's like every big city. There's even like a South Park joke about this, how they take Kenny's rundown house because he's poor.
Yep.
And they turned it into like downtown South Park, and it means downtown South Park. And they turn the crappy part and make it like trendy, and they still keep Kenny's house, and it's like, oh, over by the house, and it's like
the historic district.
Yeah, the historic district. It's like all big cities are doing this, just gentrification, and they're trying to make it cool. And it's like, oh, it's so cool that there's like this nice pizza shop, and then right next door is like the projects, and like and the next block is crackheads. Oh, it's so cool. But yeah, every big city is doing that now.
Now, ironically, right, if they wanted to buy the land and develop it and offer fair price to the previous owner, or at least make them an offer, right, they should be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Hey, we're doing this project, and it's always like the last mile problem, right? The last holdout's going to get the biggest payout because you can't finish it unless you pay them off huge. So like, what do you do about that? And Disney solved that problem years ago.
You just try to not let them all know what you're doing.
That's what Disney did.
Oh.
Like in order to build like Disney World, I don't have all the facts off the top of my head, but in order to build Disney World, Disney set up like a dozen shell corporations and bought up all the land that they needed under like the guise of all these shell corporations.
Whoa.
And then built Disney World on it, because they knew that if there was one company buying up all the land, someone would hold out. And in order to avoid that, they created mini corporations to get the land.
That's so interesting. I wonder, because I've been hearing that like Elon Musk wants to create a little town, and so does Jeff Bezos. I wonder if they're going to take that.
They'd be smart to keep their mouth shut until they're ready to do it. Like announcing it up front is a bad thing to do unless they're willing to pay. Or, because it's Elon Musk and he's in bed with the president, right? He'll just eminent domain whatever he needs to get that last mile problem taken care of.
Yeah, apparently the Elon Musk one is going to be like people living on it on 69th and 420th Streets and stuff like that. I don't really know, but people are going to be living on it.
It's not unheard of, right? Like there are old country songs about like the company store, right? You work for the company, you live nearby, you go to work, you commute, and you buy everything internally. Like it's not a new phenomenon to do this. He's just doing it on a grander scale. The point I was driving at earlier, though, was, it'd be okay if, in fairness, to be like, hey, we want to offer you this money because we want the land, right? And you can say yes or no. But when the Palisades fires in California happened, right, and the fires in Maui happened, the government prevented people from selling the land to developers, right? They went the other way. They said, like, you're not allowed to sell because we don't want these developers to take advantage of you, by lowballing you for the land.
Wow.
Well, the land isn't worth what it was a week ago when there was a house and all this other stuff. It is significantly devalued, and now's a good time to buy.
Wow.
So they could easily buy it up cheap and develop there, right? And the government is preventing them from doing so. So on one hand, you have the government preventing companies from paying fair market value to people who may want to voluntarily sell because of the diminished value, right? And on the other hand, you have them taking land from people because they don't want to sell in New Jersey.
The ultimate example of the government thinks that they're smarter than you and should be able to run your life for you, that they'll tell you, no, you're not allowed to sell your own property right now because we're thinking it won't be a good deal for you.
Right.
That's insane. 603-283-6160. Corrupted power hungriness is probably more likely the root of all evil. What do you think? Call 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up.
A severe allergic reaction causes Florida to swell up to twice its normal size. And a Ford assembly line worker is thinking about asking out a cute welding robot from work. It's time for the weekly feature with over 14 subliminal and completely unapologetic cues to purchase Energizer batteries. This is the Onion Week in Review. Area man Brett Lucier told reporters Tuesday he was left winded after placing a particularly lengthy lunch order at a local Wendy's. A weary Lucier said he struggled to get through the 7-item order and even suffered a cramp while asking for the spicy chicken sandwich.
I thought I was just about done after I ordered that junior bacon cheeseburger, but I was able to get that Frosty in there too.
And in this week's op-ed pages, a local man talks about how he was always just one of those kids who was off by himself taking cats apart to see how they work. In your hands right now are the 24 AA Energizer lithium batteries you were subconsciously manipulated into purchasing. We make no apology. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Global stocks have fallen this Friday on the news that the US plans to impose a blanket 50% tariff on goods coming from the European Union. The announcement from President Donald Trump came before US and EU trade representatives were scheduled to speak. Everton's William Denslow has more from Brussels.
Donald Trump's bombshell announcement comes as the EU has reportedly provided a list of concessions to Washington with the goal of de-escalating trade tensions. According to Politico, the proposal included plans to boost spending in areas such as energy and deepen ties in fields like 5 and 6G technology. But President Trump stated on social media that negotiations aren't progressing, and the US is expected to reject the European Commission's latest proposal. The EU previously had a July deadline to reach a deal before blanket tariffs were scheduled to rise from 10% to 20%. Now it has just a few days before this 50% duty is set to kick in.
Meanwhile, shares in tech giant Apple tumbled on Friday after President Trump demanded its iPhone products be manufactured in the United States. President Trump said the company would face a 25% tariff for any phones made outside the US.
In a Truth Social post hours before markets opened, President Trump wrote, "I have long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their phones that will be sold in the United States of America will be manufactured and built in the United States, not India or any place else. If that is not the case," he wrote, "a tariff of at least 25% must be paid by Apple to the US. At the opening on the New York Stock Exchange on Friday, Apple shares fell more than 3.7%. In recent years, Apple has shifted much of its iPhone production to India because it has a better trading relationship to the United States than China. Some analysts have estimated the cost of moving iPhone production to America would raise the cost of the product by at least 25%, with one estimate suggesting an iPhone could cost $3,500 US.
A judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration over its plan to bar Harvard University from enrolling international students. It came hours after Harvard announced it was suing the government. The ban would affect more than 7,000 students at the elite university. It marks the latest clash between the White House and Harvard following its refusal to implement reforms demanded by the government. Israel's Prime Minister has accused the leaders of Britain, France and Canada of being on the wrong side of history on the conflict in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu released a video criticising Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer and Mark Carney after the attack on Israeli embassy staff in Washington, D.C. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. That's 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160 is the phone number you can call to bring up whatever is on your mind and talk with us here at Free Talk Live. You can change the subject, tell us that we're wrong. It doesn't matter. It's Free Talk Live. And I'd like to thank Corey for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Corey went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks to Corey and everyone who supports us. And again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. amps.freetalklive.com. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Richie Rich. And apparently the best way to tell us that we're wrong is to call in, tell us we're wrong, declare victory, and then change the subject immediately.
Exactly.
That's the winning formula.
And if someone starts saying something that's counter to what you're saying,
I don't want to talk about it.
Or you either don't want to talk about it, or you say there's different metrics to whether or not you're right. Just change the metrics. It's ridiculous. Well, in the last segments, we've been talking about New Jersey in this instance, taking land from people who the land didn't belong to them, but New Jersey wants it, and it's called eminent domain, and that's in the Constitution. They just get to do it. Says right here they have the authority to do it, even though you thought you bought that property. Well, never really belonged to you. If the government you live under says they want it, they can always take it.
There was a Supreme Court case, like within the last couple of months, that was supposed to revisit eminent domain, and they kicked it. Like they didn't do anything with it. They sent it back down. And it was the opportunity to like rectify and remedy the Kelo case from years ago, and they took a pass on it, which is very unfortunate for people who are into this eminent domain problem and follow it thoroughly.
It's a huge problem. The government can just say, "Well, we think that you got this money that you're driving in your car with during." Committing a crime, and now it's ours. And you don't get to just say, hey, that actually ended up being false in court, and take it back. They just get it.
Yeah, that's asset forfeiture. Similar, but same thing.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking it's the same thing. But
it's similar.
It's very similar. One's for
and it doesn't have to be a crime. They can just like assume it's part of a crime. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Even if you prove it wasn't a part of a crime, it doesn't matter.
There was one story that sticks out in my head several years ago. It was a dude who ran a trucking company, and he was going across state line to buy a new truck for his trucking company. So he had like $50,000 in cash to go buy this truck, from wherever to wherever. And he got stopped on his way.
Oh, no.
And they stole the cash, because why would you have $50,000 in cash? Well, he said, I'm a trucking company. I run a trucking company, and I'm going to wherever to buy a new truck. And they went, no, it's drugs. It's definitely drugs.
Wow.
And they just stole it.
Wow.
And so, like, he's got a trucking company, no money, and no truck, because he can't buy the truck with no money.
That's so sad.
And again, because it's the government, it's even if he wants to adjudicate it, it's going to take years to get it all back, and he can't run a business.
Yeah, you can't run your business at the time, and you have to spend money to fight them.
Right.
It's a horrible, disgusting
gang. And they just steal it.
Immoral, disgusting people join that gang. The police, the government.
Yes. And if you find yourself to be good and moral, and you join, and then you realize what it is, then you have a duty, if you're good and righteous and moral, to immediately
take out
withdraw.
As many as,
take out as many as you can while you're there. But that's also the metric, right? Like, how can you tell the good cop? Well, they're the ones that got kicked off the force,
right?
For trying to arrest the bad cops.
Like, there was a guy named Brad Jardis who would be featured a lot on Free Talk Live. I'm not really sure if he ever hosted, and he was part of
Law Enforcement Against Prohibition.
Yeah, LEAP.
Yep.
And they would bully him. They would they would write like fag. I'm pretty sure you can say that on the area, on his car, stuff like that. And they tried to bully him to get him to like quit being a cop.
Yep.
Because they're a gang and they're bullies and they're freaks.
But I'm also pretty sure he admitted once or twice on air that he did write people tickets for non-crimes, right?
He did or didn't?
Did. Like, he this is still part of the job. You got to go do it.
Like, until he quit? Because he eventually did quit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, he acted and if he's listening, call in and correct me.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm pretty sure he did cop things along the way, and this was just his one issue was, the marijuana issue.
Yeah, he does still believe that there should be cops for certain reasons, and he's been open about that online. Like, he has said that they're, like, he's not like a full libertarian. I'm not saying that, but, yeah, he believes that there should be cops pulling over people for speeding because he's seen too many brains on the side of the road. It's just like, well, that's probably going to happen. We're all driving 60 miles down the road in death traps,
And again, well, what is he going to do here in New Hampshire, right? Because you can ride a motorcycle without a helmet.
We do have callers on the line, so I'm going to go to them first. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, you mentioned the fact that the government can just take things by eminent domain.
Mm-hmm.
Constitutionally, they've written it down in their rules that makes it a thing that they're allowed to do.
Well, of course, I have to remind you that there is no such thing as a government. There are only people, other people, who just act in a certain way uncontrolled. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about, I think it was last week.
This is like, I don't want to talk about it live.
Yeah, that's true. But it is a good point. These people they don't have any actual special superhuman powers. They're not sent by God. No, they just are people who gave themselves titles, gave themselves names and badges, and they claim authority. They don't actually have any authority to take your stuff out of your car.
The superhuman power is the willingness to use violence against peaceful people.
Psychopathy.
So,
sure.
So I got a little curious. I think it was yesterday, probably last week. I heard on the channel here an ad, to free Ross.
Oh, they're still running ads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also I had this curiosity question: Is Ian under some type of super gag order or something where he cannot participate at all in any way, shape, or form?
Only has 10 minutes a day to talk, so he'd rather talk to me.
Or listen to the latest Free Talk cast, the podcast, because Aria did an interview with Ian.
It's funny how you say it.
Yeah, because I was thinking
I'm more subtle about it than Aria.
Fun. It's kind of fun when I hear him on commercials and stuff like that.
I agree.
Yeah, look up the latest Free Talk cast. You'll be able to hear him.
Okay. And then, let's see, I was thinking maybe if he were not under some kind of a gag order, that he could maybe do some public service announcements for us or something. I don't know.
Yep.
Anyway.
All in the works. Again, I'll direct everyone listening and you again to the latest Free Talk cast. Aria's production.
Free Talk cast. Okay.
Yep. It should be in the main podcast feed for Free Talk Live, but it's also its own separate thing. So however you find it, I don't know all the outlets.
You can go to the Free Talk Live SoundCloud, easily find it.
Okay. And on YouTube. I think that one's still on YouTube.
Okay. And where's that petition these days?
Oh, freeiannow.org. It'll say right at the top of the page, sign the petition.
Okay. Is that scheduled to be delivered at some point?
I don't really think it's scheduled. I think that you were able to just keep saying, like, hey, look, Trump, look at this. Because, yeah, it didn't get delivered for Ross necessarily. But his mom said that she does think it was a deciding helpful factor.
It's a movement.
Something you can show someone. People are behind it.
The Free Ian petition is more of a movement than it is an actual document. Right? If you can direct Trump to show, like, hey, look at all these people who are signing this petition to free him, right? You don't actually have to deliver all those signatures. It's just more publicity to get attention drawn to it.
Okay. Maybe we should get some stickers for our cars. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. People have been talking about different kinds of merch, and this month, the thing that's been kind of worked on, and I wish I could have helped more, but I went to have a surgery, and I was just gone for like a whole week.
BBL.
Is that there is a conference called the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Las Vegas, I think, and Mark went there. Multiple people went there. Even Ross Ulbricht's mom helped pass out things about Ian. So like it's not like people aren't doing things. I guess that the merch will be kind of maybe something we think about in the next couple months. And I really do appreciate it.
The merch distributor currently for Free Talk Live? I can't think of them.
LibertyMinded.com.
There you go.
Yeah, we should definitely talk to them about adding things. But right now he is actually in the process of revamping his site too. So. And
LibertyStickers.com, I don't know if they still exist, but that was an advertiser for a long time on Free Talk Live.
Oh, we could definitely reach out to them too.
Yep.
Or we could pretend to gift him an airliner.
What's that?
Trump.
You know, the Trump thing.
He got gifted from Qatar an airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
we
so
could
funny.
we could say we're getting money up to gift him a better one.
Now, to be fair, Boeing has so many issues, right? I don't even fault them for not want to flying a Boeing Air Force One.
Oh, is that why he's?
I believe so, right? They're late on they're having issues. They're late on deliveries. Air Force One is like out of date. They had trouble getting the astronauts back. And if you're like the president of the free world, you're like, do I really want to do I really want to ride in a Boeing? Or does this Qatar, airline palace on wheels look a little better and more presidential? Maybe I go with the company that's not having so many mechanical issues.
I was thinking something in the line of a press release, where you say we're nationwide, we're gathering together to counter the gift of Qatar. Anyway,
I don't know if the feds would be thrilled with the idea of Ian being given some form of transportation.
No, we would gift it to Trump as a bribe to get Ian out of prison.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Oh, that's not a bad
Exactly.
idea at
Yep.
all. I listened to Tim Dillon's comedy report about the Qatar thing, and he's dressed up with a Saudi Arabian looking outfit and it's like he's wearing gold and he has a tiger and the tiger has gold on him.
Nice.
And he's like, not everyone was bought out by the Qataris. This is just ridiculous. You people need to be more open to accepting gifts. and
Yeah.
he actually said maybe the answer to all the world problems is to be more of a gracious gift giver. And honestly, maybe you're on something, Jet. Maybe we need to.
Just
I don't
some
want to
kind
say
of
bribe.
gift.
He's just open about it, right? Like the entire lobbying industry is about bribing Congress people to vote in your favor or to pass legislation that favors your business or your industry, right? Like
You know
that's
how he
all
has-
backdoor gift giving and hand wringing and whatever. He's just open about it.
Maybe Israel needs to think about what kind of gift they want to give Trump, and then we'll all benefit.
Yeah. I mean, if you- like Thomas Massey said, everyone's got all of his other Congress critters. They all have AIPAC guys. Like they're all beholden to Israel anyway.
Yeah, he has his own shoes. At one point, he has his own coins, and now, of course, the cryptocurrency and all that. There's got to be something we could come up with, like I don't know, a tie. I don't know, anything. A new tie, a new set of shoes. I don't know. It's just this kind of gift to get it into the press.
For Trump, I think it'd have to be made of gold.
Trump branded suit where the pinstripes say Trump. So you have to get really close to see it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Made of
Sounds good.
Bitcoin
Well,
Cassatius coins. No, you destroy them. Well, he might like that because it's just decadence.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to destroy all these Cassatius coins to make my suit.
Yeah. So the concept of finding some gift that could potentially be advertised, through a press release, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'll keep thinking about it.
I really appreciate the brainstorming. That's awesome. And hopefully there will be free Ian merch in the next few months. We have other callers on the line. Thank you for the call, Jet. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
On the discussion of civil asset forfeiture, I kind of wanted to share something rather interesting. I'm not sure if you guys know or a lot of viewers know, but first of all, I'd like to clarify I'm a very staunch opponent of civil asset forfeiture as practiced. I think it's ridiculous, and it's simply a way for police officers to steal money from people. But one of the interesting
without due process.
circumstances- Yeah, no, that's the huge problem. We're supposed to be a civil society, and it's evil. But I wanted to give an example I saw before. There was a fellow who didn't trust banks for whatever reason, but that's his choice not to trust banks. And I think it was in Colorado, and he would just carry copious amounts of cash on him, like $100,000 at a time. And one of the excuses they used to take the money away from him was they used the K-9 unit to sniff for drugs. And they were like, well, he's hitting for drugs. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but nearly every single piece of tender currency in the United States has some sort of trace of drugs on it.
Yep.
I've heard that.
Mostly cocaine.
Yeah, mostly cocaine. So if they're going to use that as an excuse to steal money, isn't that just a free pass for them to take everybody's money pretty much whenever they feel like it?
Yes.
I feel like they already just have a free pass to take everybody's money whenever they feel like it.
And I'll kind of do you one a little better, maybe, not trying to one-up you, but for a long time, dispensaries couldn't get bank accounts because banks didn't want to associate with the marijuana industry because it's banned on the federal level, right? So all of these dispensaries had no choice but to have copious amounts of cash lying around because they couldn't deposit it anywhere legally, or legitimately. The banks wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
So that was another way to go after them. Right, and steal their cash because, hey, you can't deposit it in a bank even if you wanted to.
I don't want to give them any ideas, but I know that like adult film stars often can't get bank accounts.
Yep.
Maybe they have a bunch of cash.
I'm really surprised that crypto isn't used more for porn and OnlyFans.
It is.
Oh.
Okay, I'm out of the loop then.
Yeah, I'm out of the loop.
But interestingly enough, that's one of the most common justifications for civil asset forfeiture is the ridiculous war on drugs. We have to take this drug money. We have to protect the communities. Little do most people understand because they've been brainwashed by government propaganda. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I like to get it out from time to time because a lot of my friends disagree with me.
Yeah.
But the war on drugs shouldn't even exist. It's a problem they created by criminalizing substances for people to tweak their consciousness. They create the criminal empires. They create the sex trafficking. They create the violence.
Yes.
And then they turn around and they profit off of the violence that they themselves created. I'm not necessarily against the idea of seizing assets that are used in legitimate crimes. I don't believe drug crimes have a victim whatsoever, but it's absolutely ridiculous. And
what assets? What would be a legitimate crime, and what assets would you seize?
So I'll tell you, if there was provably some sort of murder for hire plot, and there was an investigation into it, and the murderer or the person orchestrating this kind of thing was brought before a judge, sentenced to his crimes, and these assets could be proved to have been involved in the crime, I wouldn't be against seizing them as a form of restitution for a victim.
Okay.
Sounds pretty solid.
With sex trafficking.
Yeah. Okay.
Sex trafficking where the woman is, or the person who's being sex trafficked is legitimately there against their will, stuff like that. Because usually that's to make money with them.
Yeah. Well, I would say that any sort of restitution, asset forfeiture would be okay.
Yeah, in
because you have to make it whole.
A big difference in that scenario is that would be used for restitution when right now the cops just kind of take the money and use it for their cop activities.
Yep.
AKA literally exactly what the caller is saying.
Cop cars.
Creating problems, creating black markets, creating violence, and then profiting off of it.
One of the things with the war on drugs that scares me a little bit, and it may be like the biggest reason why I don't want to necessarily travel abroad to certain places, is like I don't do drugs. But there was one case a long time ago of some dude in like Saudi Arabia or one of those places who like stepped on a piece of marijuana and got like a seed stuck in his sandal.
Oh no.
And they screened him at the airport and like then imprisoned him for like drug possession.
Yeah.
Like that's, the irony of me who like doesn't do it, doesn't deal it, doesn't sell it, doesn't purchase it, to get to step on something and get caught in a mess like that is like, not worth the risk.
Yeah, that sounds so terrifying.
Like I'll never get a DUI because I don't drink. So the irony of me like getting a DUI or anything like that is, stupid.
It looks like that caller dropped off, so thank you so much for the call, caller. But we have another one on the line, so unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hi, this is Paul. I'm in Arizona.
Hi, Paul.
And, Bonnie, it's always nice to talk to you, and I look forward to the day when your husband can walk free.
Thank you.
Again.
I appreciate it.
I really echo the person that just ahead of me talking about the whole drug problem is a totally created one. But the problem, the issue is there's so many people who can't see reality. And I wanted to bring up a book that I came across. It's called What's Our Problem? It's a self-help book for society by Tim Urban. And he has a website called Wait But Why, which has got a lot of other nice content on it. But this book is just an incredible work. He says it took him 6 years to write this thing, and I believe it. And it goes into such amazing. It has a perspective that I've never heard before. I mean, I'm in my 70s. Okay, so I've been in the liberty movement. I've been in the tax movement. I've read a lot of this stuff. I've never come across this way of looking at society. And what he's done is he's taken the issue of the political spectrum, the left-right thing, okay? And, of course, you remember the libertarian Nolan chart, which takes the left-right and turns it into a diamond.
Yep.
Okay, so you've got left and right, then you've got up and down, and the bottom is
libertarian and authoritarian,
and the top is total anarchy. But it's still just a political spectrum, okay? What Tim Urban has done in this book, he's taken the horizontal axis, left and right, and added a vertical axis, how people think, okay? Not just what they think, okay? The left thinks that, progressivism is the way to go, and, there is no such thing as private property, blah, 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 and the right is very much, private property to the extreme, and, But how you come to these conclusions is the important thing. And he's done an amazing job in this book to line out exactly what's going on and how you can spot stuff.
Where would you say that you fall from?
Well, can you distill it down?
Like where would you say you fall on how they think?
I'll distill it down. Basically, he starts out with the human race, thousands and millions of years ago. Okay, they're one of the first pages in the book. He's got a chart that says if human history were a 1,000-page book, okay, 250,000 years ago was the first page, and the last page, covers hundreds of years of history. And so the idea that for most of our lives, the human beings have survived based on their their instinct, their animal, their primitive mind, okay? And that is, in a primitive situation, a primitive mind is important, okay? And, gratification, right. me first, blah, 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 okay?
I've done some self-help work, and the terminology used in that workshop was victim to a program.
Right, but the deal is that the way of thinking is very, self-oriented, non-cooperative, instant gratification, stuff like that. Then what made humans become, tribal. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, the tribal mind. And what's happened in recent history is that people have figured out how to cooperate, how to use the upper part of their mind. Okay, and what he calls it is the what is it here? Higher mind. Okay, I'll go with that. And so
you're cheating. You've got someone feeding you information.
Yes, my wife is.
Nice. Me and Ian like to read books together. So
it's fine. I'm just messing with you.
The higher mind is the one that takes the wide view. It takes the big picture and going, let's see what our survival doesn't just mean today. It means the long view.
Yeah, thinking more long term.
That's what this civilization is built on. Okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because the neocortex being more developed in humans, it's what basically sets us apart from animals. Like the animals, they have that part of their brain. I think I erroneously stated they didn't have it in.
You want a YOLO?
But they have we have bigger, more developed parts of the neocortex that. So that'd be like the higher mind. It sounds accurate to me. We're out of time right there, but check out that book by Tim Urban. That he said that one was called "What's Our Problem," right?
Yep.
"What's Our Problem" by Tim Urban. It seems like people are in here saying that he stopped his blog for many years after 2016 election. Well, more Free Talk Live coming up. So 603-283-6160. Get in on the conversation with us. Thanks for all the calls. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
Protection. Eleutheromania. The insatiable desire for freedom.
Filibuster. Police state.
It's the new 3-song heavy metal EP from Captain Kickass. Available now on your favorite music app or get it directly from CaptainKickass.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 3 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Global stocks have fallen this Friday on the news that the US plans to impose a blanket 50% tariff on goods coming from the European Union. The announcement from President Donald Trump came before US and EU trade representatives were scheduled to speak. Everton's William Denslow has more from Brussels.
Donald Trump's bombshell announcement comes as the EU has reportedly provided a list of concessions to Washington with the goal of de-escalating trade tensions. According to Politico, the proposal included plans to boost spending in areas such as energy and deepen ties in fields like 5 and 6G technology. But President Trump stated on social media that negotiations aren't progressing, and the US is expected to reject the European Commission's latest proposal. The EU previously had a July deadline to reach a deal before blanket tariffs were scheduled to rise from 10% to 20%. Now it has just a few days before this 50% duty is set to kick in.
Meanwhile, shares in tech giant Apple tumbled on Friday after President Trump demanded its iPhone products be manufactured in the United States. President Trump said the company would face a 25% tariff for any phones made outside the US.
In a Truth Social post hours before markets opened, President Trump wrote, "I have long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their phones that will be sold in the United States of America will be manufactured and built in the United States, not India or any place else. If that is not the case," he wrote, "a tariff of at least 25% must be paid by Apple to the US. At the opening on the New York Stock Exchange on Friday, Apple shares fell more than 3.7%. In recent years, Apple has shifted much of its iPhone production to India because it has a better trading relationship to the United States than China. Some analysts have estimated the cost of moving iPhone production to America would raise the cost of the product by at least 25%, with one estimate suggesting an iPhone could cost $3,500 US.
A judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration over its plan to bar Harvard University from enrolling international students. It came hours after Harvard announced it was suing the government. The ban would affect more than 7,000 students at the elite university. It marks the latest clash between the White House and Harvard following its refusal to implement reforms demanded by the government. Israel's Prime Minister has accused the leaders of Britain, France and Canada of being on the wrong side of history on the conflict in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu released a video criticising Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer and Mark Carney after the attack on Israeli embassy staff in Washington, D.C. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks with more today on the agreement signed by the UK to hand the Chagos Islands over to Mauritius. The islands, an archipelago in the Indian Ocean, will now become sovereign territory of Mauritius, but the UK will continue leasing a military base on Diego Garcia, the largest of the islands. That's a move that the Trump administration has welcomed after earlier expressing grave concern about the possibility of losing access to the strategically important base. But Beatrice Pomp, one of the Chagosians who brought a series of legal challenges, argues that at no point were the islanders themselves consulted about their future and says she now fears she will never see her homeland again.
The British government has not consulted me or any of the Chagosians, and I am a native from Diego Garcia, and with the deal, I will not be allowed on Diego Garcia. In an ideal world, we will be given our human rights. We will be allowed to go to our place of birth without any sanctions, without any law against us, like anyone else.
For the UK, the deal closes a complex chapter that has seen it accused of riding roughshod over the islanders' wishes, but also causing friction with the White House. Mauritius hailed the deal as a great victory that brings a long-simmering colonial-era dispute to a close. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, global stocks have fallen on the news that the US plans to impose a blanket 50% tariff on goods coming from the European Union. It comes as shares in the tech giant Apple have tumbled after President Trump demanded its iPhone products be manufactured in the US. And a judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration over its plan to bar Harvard University from enrolling international students. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
As of today, the average cost of a pack of cigarettes has gone up to 2 hand jobs and a stick of beef jerky. For more, we go now to Onion News Network prison economics expert Hal Rogan.
The prison economy runs on cigarettes. They're involved in every economic transaction at some stage, from contract killings to naked woman picture acquisition.
Right.
That's why we've got shampoo at 6 batteries. We've got tattoos at 50 commissary stamps.
Now, for what it's really like out there in the market, let's check in with major cigarette trader Big Dap Ramirez. Big Dap, nice to see you again.
Thanks, Rick. Good to see you. What's happening, Hal?
How's it going, Big Dap?
Now, it's obviously a boom time for cigarettes right now.
I'm getting a lot of
But
hand
with
jobs.
prices this high, analysis shows you're going to be seeing a drop-off in real sales soon as consumers turn to smoking grass fejos.
Look, we've been through this before. The market teaches us not to panic. But if I learn anything in this game, it's that a wife or girlfriend will pass off a few decks in the boneyard. Supply will normalize, and we'll see cigarettes returning to a single hand job or less.
Big Dap, best of luck to you. We'll keep checking in on the story with Hal throughout the day.
Thanks, Rick.
Moving on to some happier news. In Atlanta today, 2 snitches were beaten to death.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Welcome to hour number 3 of our show. In studio, it's myself, Chris,
Riley, and Mr. Penguin getting distracted by people asking me technical questions online.
You're doing tech support?
I'm doing tech support while trying to do the show, so if I'm not responding to you, that's why I am back on the air.
Good, because I have some technical issues I want to run by you while we're on the air.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know I'm going to do technical support on the air, but if you message me when we get into intermission, I may respond.
You may, but you may not.
This is true. It's at my
It's completely
leisure.
unreliable tech support from Mr. Penguin when he's doing a nationally syndicated radio show. So
who knows what could happen?
Exactly. Well, I'm not going to hold you to any tech support promises you may have just made. Now he's just.
I don't even know what tech support promises I just made, but I feel like you're fabricating something because I probably haven't made any promises, but
you haven't. I'm just trying to keep things light. Wow, we've been kind of all over the place on this show tonight. I do want to talk about that one story I kind of teased about Trump actually possibly doing something good. I'm reluctant on all this stuff because I was one of those guys who would not have voted had it not been for the opportunity to cast a vote that might free Ross Ulbricht. And knowing that my vote, it is impossible for my vote to have mattered, but I still feel complicit in Trump's election.
Yeah, I can proudly say I did not vote for Trump.
I can probably
on either occasion one or occasion two, and
good for you.
I'm probably one of the few people who can say that.
I will never vote for Trump.
Yeah, they got me once, and I'll never vote for him again.
I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I totally, I'm glad that he was elected and he freed. Well, not so much that he was elected, but like what was the alternative, right? So like, at least something good came from the election, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge. I've never really been a huge Ross fan, to be honest.
Right.
Like I like what he did. Some of the things he said I don't like, but it's like. And some of the other things I wish he would have done. And if he had done, I probably would have been a much bigger supporter of trying to get him released. But in my perspective, I'd much rather spend time on like people who moved to New Hampshire and did those, or didn't do that specifically, but did other stuff, right?
Sure.
To push liberty forward. So, I mean, it's not, it's like he had the ability to, and he could have, and he didn't. So it's like he should have. If he ends up moving to New Hampshire, I will, I'll rethink what, I think of him, I think. But, at this point, it's like,
it is what it is.
It's like, I get it. Not everybody can move, but he could have moved. It's like,
I understand.
And the fact that he's going to wait until after we got him out of a cage to move, this doesn't seem right. There are so many other people.
Fair, we weren't the only ones who lobbied to get him released.
Sure, but there's so many other people who are sitting in cages that are probably equally as deserving of our support, but we're not really talking about those people, And
and this was a case where there was a lot of mobilization within the larger crypto community.
Yeah,
whose DNA you can trace back to this radio show.
Oh yeah, I mean, the reason that crypto took off, I think, it's fair to say it's attributable to Free Talk Live.
Yes.
And all sorts of different things that libertarians and especially Ian did in the early days of crypto.
Did you ever read Nathaniel Popper's book, Digital Gold? There's more to the title. But a really good book, New York Times writer. And he talks about, when crypto started to get word out in Silicon Valley and stuff like that, there were USB sticks of Free Talk Live episodes being passed from person to person.
That's awesome.
About this. And Roger Ver heard of Free Talk Live here. And that's when Roger was full-blown Bitcoin Jesus. And so its DNA starts here. What I like about the Ross case is it brought up this thing it was a black market, to be clear. I mean, absolutely. And we think those are important because they demonstrate two things. Capitalism works and government makes bad laws.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's definitely something to be said. I think the whole idea behind the Silk Road was it was bound. Its time was it was just bound to occur, right? Like it was something that was inevitable. If it wasn't Ross, it would have been somebody else. In fact, there's been many people who have done basically the same thing.
Exactly.
Now, I will say there's one thing I do like about Ross, and that he did emphasize free markets, right? It wasn't just somebody doing it for the sake of the money. And I think for the right, and for the money is perfect. He wasn't just doing it for the money. So I think in that respect, it was very libertarian, and he is much more worthy of a person to support than other people who have come along and done the same thing.
One of my favorite memories from the Silk Road days was my son sending me a PDF of a screenshot from the administrator at Silk Road where he was explaining, we had some technical issues. It's all fixed now. And then the signature line at the bottom of the email or the post was a bunch of links to Mises.org, writings by Rothbard, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's
funny.
Yeah, and this was, I was like, okay, now I am getting on there and I am going to get an account.
Yeah.
But yeah, because of all those things, and because it was a collision in time of somebody who really wanted to develop a free market for the internet at the same time Bitcoin came into existence. And I mean, that collision of those two ideas together made it suddenly well known, to the point where everybody thought that Bitcoin was only used for drugs. That's the only thing it's used for. And you had lots of people that were using it legitimately even then. So it was kind of crazy. But I strongly recommend that book, Digital Gold something by Nathaniel Popper. Really, really good book about the history of Bitcoin. And Ian and Mark are mentioned by name in there. I mean, that's something that I always thought was pretty cool.
It is pretty cool that we are hosting a show that Ian and Mark have become world famous, pretty much.
Kickstarted cryptocurrency.
Yeah, exactly. They made it what it is today.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason that people like Roger Ver and Ian Freeman have been targeted by by the state, by the feds. They're some of the most significant players in the success of the whole crypto space.
Yeah.
So,
and I think and that's where I was going with the whole Ross Ulbricht thing. You had a lot of people in crypto, and I'm saying to those people in crypto, don't forget. I mean, and Ian and Roger Ver are not the only ones. There are other people that have been taken down just because they were dealing in Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we have our own. We have other people within our own community in New Hampshire that have been taken down at some level. Because of it. We've got what is this? Who am I thinking of? There was he had a video site, Odyssey.
Oh yeah. Jeremy
Kaufman. Yeah, Jeremy Kaufman, another individual who the feds went after. Now they sued him. They didn't. I think. Well, no. Was it no, I can't remember. Was it just a lawsuit, or was it?
I think he was sued by the SEC.
SEC. It was a lawsuit by the SEC against his business. So he basically they took his business from him. Let's put it that way. A very successful business at that. And it was crazy.
It will continue until, and hopefully we'll be able to keep that stuff.
I'm always amazed the justification they've got for taking down sites and doing things to people. And Jeremy Kaufman, in his case, it was because they were able to find a one instance by one guy, like one email that could be conveyed as to basically having been, promoting it as a security, basically. Yeah. It's like, how on earth can that one email by one employee that you didn't authorize, result in your, them considering you to have sold cryptocurrency as a company, right? It just seems so absurd. And the same thing I've seen with there's a MP3, Michael Robertson. It wasn't MP3 Tunes. It wasn't MP3.com was what he was famous for, but MP3 Tunes was a site that he came out with, I don't know, a decade later probably. And it basically allowed for side loading of music, and the entertainment industry didn't like that, but they sued him. And basically, because one employee ripped a CD, a song from a CD, and uploaded it to his personal music locker.
Yeah.
They shut the whole site down over copyright infringement. Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, one song by one employee that you didn't authorize and was never shared with any other human being,
but
is somehow
very
copyright
big
infringement.
Industry that donates lots of money to politicians.
It just goes to show the insanity of the big industries like the entertainment industry and how they think they can have a monopoly on.
Well, they can if they buy the right politicians and bureaucrats.
Literally,
we're
today,
going to go to the phones where we've got a wireless caller. Unscreened wireless caller. You're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, Donald Trump just finished a tour to the Middle East, and you know what would have been hilarious?
What's that?
The Qataris were really offering him that 747, and they say, "We want you to check it out now. and take it. We'll take you for a spin, and you see how you like it. See if there's any things you need to change. I don't know, the temperature, the kind of air conditioning. Maybe you need more microwave ovens in it. And they take off, and instead of going over Saudi Arabia, maybe if they go were to land in Iran, where Trump is wanted for murdering a Iranian general, and they would hand him over to Trump, hand him over to the Iranians as an extradition. Wouldn't that be a dirty trick? Wouldn't that be?
That would be
funny.
That would be.
It
This
didn't
sounds
happen.
like too much This sounds too entertaining for anybody to make it into a film. But that would be hilarious if it was
Would be, I mean, those lines on the map mean so much to bureaucrats. You know?
Yeah.
I was just thinking of that. That would have been hilarious.
It would have been.
Anything else? Oh, he's already gone.
Well, that's Selma, New Hampshire for you.
Cool movie ideas.
I know.
Yeah,
I like that one.
That sounds like a really entertaining movie.
Okay, so back to the story. Trump admin, which they mean by administration, Trump administration permits sale of devices that allow standard firearms to fire like a machine gun. Gun control groups condemned the move as, quote, a dangerous backroom deal spearheaded by Trump general counsel, unquote, that, quote, effectively legalizes machine guns, unquote. This is from NBCnews.com, so prepare yourselves for some anti-gun talk. By Ken Delanian. The Trump administration has decided to permit the sale of devices that enable standard firearms to fire like machine guns, a move that one person familiar with the matter said was, quote, by far the most dangerous thing this administration has done, unquote, on gun policy.
All right, I'm sorry, but I got to stop you for a second. How is that dangerous? You can already take a paperclip and turn any semi-automatic into a fully automatic machine gun, correct?
You can do it with a rubber band too.
Okay, so you can do it with rubber band. So how does this make anything more dangerous? I mean, literally, it's the only difference is somebody deciding to do it or not do it.
So I was hoping this article would give us a little insight and hopefully a web link, but it does give us some names of businesses that are going to stay in business, evidently. We'll continue. The Justice Department on Friday announced a settlement in a lawsuit brought by the National Association for Gun Rights. The lawsuit alleged the ATF rule banning, quote, forced reset triggers, unquote, devices that allow semi-automatic weapons to fire rapid bursts of bullets. Quote, this Department of Justice believes that the Second Amendment is not a second-class right, unquote, Attorney General Pamela Bondi said in a statement, quote, and we are glad to end a needless cycle of litigation with a settlement that will enhance public safety, unquote. Vanessa Gonzalez, a spokesperson for Giffords, that's the National Gun Violence Prevention Group led by former Representative Gabrielle Giffords, condemned the move. Quote, the Trump administration has effectively legalized machine guns. Lives will be lost because of his actions, unquote, said Gonzalez. Quote, this is an incredibly dangerous move that will enable shooters to inflict horrific damage. The only people who benefit from these being on the market are the people who are willing to make money from selling them. Everyone else will suffer the consequences, unquote. Well, I disagree with you because the first thing I'm doing when I get home is Googling forced reset triggers and trying to figure out which one I can get that will fit on one of my firearms, if I had any firearms to put them on.
Didn't you lose them in Lakewood and Pisaki?
I hate that. I've lost so much cryptocurrency and guns due to boating accidents.
I know. It's terrible.
Well, hold on. You got to be careful because they still expect you to pay your taxes on your lost crypto.
I can't even. I think all the records were there too.
I don't think it matters.
I know.
I think they're still going to consider it. I think they still will make you pay.
The move comes after a majority of judges on the conservative Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals appeared to side with the gun rights group during oral arguments in the case in December. The judges cited a Supreme Court decision last year finding that another rapid-fire device called the bump stock, did not convert firearms into illegal machine guns. A good decision there, too. Since the forced reset trigger devices will not be considered firearms, they can be purchased anonymously without a background or age check. Of course they can, just like a bump stock, which is a piece of plastic. Literally a piece of plastic. That's what a bump stock is.
Yeah.
It's got a spring in it. Big deal.
Yeah.
But now the Trump administration is abandoning the effort to restrict the devices. Former senior ATF officials criticized the move and predicted that the courts would have upheld a ban on reset trigger devices. Quote, "We're going to win this," unquote, said the former ATF official. Quote, "These things are not like bump stocks." Well, who cares? They both accomplish the same thing, as does a rubber band or a paperclip. There's all kinds of ways you can make guns do wonky things like fire quickly.
See, I would love to, this is like the conversations we should be having are like, can we outlaw nukes or something like that? Like individual ownership of nukes. Like those are the conversations we should be having. Not bump stocks. Not toy. Effectively
But no one
what
wants
amounts
to
to
have those
toys.
conversations because they'd rather talk about the guns. Because
right.
in their minds, the people who have the nukes are the countries, not individuals. Individuals are not going to possess nukes in their minds.
Probably not, even if it was completely legal. But that's beside the point. It's just that the ridiculousness of it. It's like. You're not. There's no way you can possibly claim that you're going to be making people safer by banning, fully automatic when you can take any semi-automatic and use a rubber band or a paper clip to make it fully automatic.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that.
It's too easy for anybody who owns a semi-automatic to turn into a fully automatic. That no matter what the law is, it doesn't have any impact on safety.
And the Las Vegas shooting at the country music festival, that one was horrific. That is the only case I can recall of a bump stock being used in a crime. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the fully automatic actually less lethal because
it is
because you end up spending more bullets, and as a result you end up being
have to reload more often.
Right. So basically, like you can if you use a semi-automatic, you can kill people individually and end up killing more people than if you have a semi-automatic and start spraying bullets.
As somebody who was in the military, I mean, anybody who's been in the military knows you are taught how to shoot 3-round bursts. You may have been taught how to fire automatic, but all your practice and all your training is one at a time.
Right, because that's the most effective, right?
That's
like
the most
killing
accurate,
people.
right. You never did anything involving, I'm sure there are groups like SEAL teams and stuff like that probably do train that way, but
I own nothing. I don't own any guns or firearms. I know very little about them. I've barely probably touched any kind of rifle or anything in my entire life, and it hasn't been since I was probably 10 years old or younger.
Right.
And if I am aware of this, like you would think that, you'd think that your Congress critters would have done a little bit of research, but no, of course it doesn't. They don't even care because it's all about getting votes.
Well, their goal and those who are anti-gun is not to restrict it just to, if you want to have a gun for hunting, they want all guns off. They just want them all gone. They want all guns to only be held by the government.
I was to say, except for them.
Yeah.
But of course, when the Republicans come into power, the Republicans aren't allowed to have the guns either.
Right. Of course.
It's only when their people are in power that the guns are okay for the government to have.
Well, you got to have the right people having the guns, otherwise there'd be crime in this.
Right, and we have to also ban the Republicans or the Libertarians from getting elected too.
Exactly.
This was kind of interesting. Under the settlement, the Justice Department, quote, will bind itself in perpetuity not to enforce the machine gun ban against any device that functions like forced reset triggers, unquote, one person familiar with the settlement told NBC News. Quote, ATF must also return thousands of seized forced reset triggers to the previous owners. In other words, machine guns will soon become legal to possess and purchase, and the federal government we'll flood the market with devices. This is the gun grabbers spreading fear. Some of the most popular versions of forced reset triggers are made by a company called Rare Breed Triggers, which was sued by the ATF in a separate case. The case will have to be dropped as part of the settlement, one of the people familiar with it said. I don't know how much in government can be done bureaucratically, quote, in perpetuity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was about to bring up the same point. But the problem with all of this, right, is that all the good stuff that Trump is accomplishing, it's not through legislation, it's through it's through policy. And the next time with the next president, it's all gonna get wiped away. So there's no lasting positive effect from these these actions that Trump is taking. It's all public relations and nothing more.
And we can talk when we come back about Doge and all the billions and trillions of dollars they're saving, and when that stuff actually may happen, not anytime soon. 603-283-6160 is our number. Give us a call. This is Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Global stocks have fallen this Friday on the news that the US plans to impose a blanket 50% tariff on goods coming from the European Union. The announcement from President Donald Trump came before US and EU trade representatives were scheduled to speak. Everton's William Denslow has more from Brussels.
Donald Trump's bombshell announcement comes as the EU has reportedly provided a list of concessions to Washington with the goal of de-escalating trade tensions. According to Politico, the proposal included plans to boost spending in areas such as energy and deepen ties in fields like 5 and 6G technology. But President Trump stated on social media that negotiations aren't progressing, and the US is expected to reject the European Commission's latest proposal. The EU previously had a July deadline to reach a deal before blanket tariffs were scheduled to rise from 10% to 20%. Now it has just a few days before this 50% duty is set to kick in.
Meanwhile, shares in tech giant Apple tumbled on Friday after President Trump demanded its iPhone products be manufactured in the United States. President Trump said the company would face a 25% tariff for any phones made outside the US.
In a Truth Social post hours before markets opened, President Trump wrote, "I have long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their phones that will be sold in the United States of America will be manufactured and built in the United States, not India or any place else. If that is not the case," he wrote, "a tariff of at least 25% must be paid by Apple to the US." At the opening on the New York Stock Exchange on Friday, Apple shares fell more than 3.7%. In recent years, Apple has shifted much of its iPhone production to India because it has a better trading relationship to the United States than China. Some analysts have estimated the cost of moving iPhone production to America would raise the cost of the product by at least 25%, with one estimate suggesting an iPhone could cost $3,500 US.
A judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration over its plan to bar Harvard University from enrolling international students. It came hours after Harvard announced it was suing the government. The ban would affect more than 7,000 students at the elite university. It marks the latest clash between the White House and Harvard following its refusal to implement reforms demanded by the government. Israel's Prime Minister has accused the leaders of Britain, France and Canada of being on the wrong side of history on the conflict in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu released a video criticising Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer and Mark Carney after the attack on Israeli embassy staff in Washington, D.C. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160. There's still time to get on the air. Tell us what is on your mind, what you've been thinking about. And we already have one caller queued up. I've got to wait a moment for the delay. Actually, I could take her because I am fairly confident that Sarah from New Mexico never curses. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, yeah, it's wonderful to talk with you. And so I did sign the petition for
Which?
Mayor Keller. So I'm really proud of that. And he also got the $5 for the public financing.
For who was
and
this?
Of course, I gave him, yes?
Who was it?
Our current mayor, Tim Keller.
Okay.
So, and you know what? I'm worried that I don't want 11 people on the ballot. I really don't.
Yeah,
that'll kind of upset me.
You've voiced a problem with that. You like a small ballot.
Right, because
And I want 50 people on the ballot.
Like
Is it too many people to research for you?
What'd you say?
Is it too many people to research for you?
It is. It kind of is because it's more work. It's more work.
Yeah. Democracy should be hard work.
Well, that's why I'm gonna just stay with our current mayor, and maybe it might be he's building this youth center like 6 months before he gets reelected. This might be like a little gimmick to get him reelected, but I
From
like
a
it.
politician? No.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to do the most before they get elected. I don't care when he built it. The fact that he's building a youth center. I used to be a homeless young person under 25, and it was extremely dangerous. I was inexperienced with life. I had pimps coming after me. It was just, atrocious. So when I found a youth center in the Seattle, Washington, it was like going into heaven. I felt so safe, so secure, and I want that for the homeless youth here.
This was before you ended up in Albuquerque, correct?
Right. Well, yeah, I was about 28, and I was in Seattle, and they had a youth center. You have to be under like 21 to use that center to get mail. They get lunch there. But it was such a safe environment. So,
So wait, you were using this when you were 28?
Well, I mean, I wasn't using it. I was not allowed to. But you know what? A lot of younger people they kind of try to they were like 24 or whatever. And they say, I really didn't use it.
But you hung out there.
I found out what it was about.
Okay. And
why would it make you feel safe if you weren't even the one using it?
Could you visit or?
It just felt when I was there, it just felt like it was only for the young people. So it felt like a safer environment.
You felt it was a good program.
Yes. So I think this youth program, they do have a youth shelter, but probably like 10 beds for guys, 10 beds for women, and that's it. And everybody else just sleep out on the sidewalk. And so he was building a bigger building for under 25. And I'm impressed.
What's he doing? What's he talking about to address the issue with kids on the street in the first place?
Well, I guess he just wants to help them, and by building the center,
Is he offering them a path towards gainful employment?
Are you sure he hasn't just criminalized it?
well, I mean, these kind of centers, he learned that it's best to have all of the programs they're there to sleep, take a shower, and eat. So you have all the drug counselors, the social workers, the employment service, everybody there to help them out at that place instead of running them around.
All right.
So,
Is this all funded by charities and donations, or?
I think it's a city project. So I think this is city funded. I guess they could take private donations, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, but the bulk of it comes from tax dollars taken from everyone, I assume. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, but do you want the tax dollar to be used for war? Do you think that's a better spending? 50% of our
better spending would be getting people gainfully employed.
Well, better spending would be not taking the money from people in the first place.
Right, because then it would be more efficiently spent by people through charitable means, and there would be some level of accountability that we are lacking with the government solution.
Yeah, and I know you don't always see eye to eye with us on that point, but I do believe that people would fund something like what you describe. If people weren't taxed to death and had more disposable income, I'm certain you could raise enough money by having, galas and free concert or concerts to raise money or
whatever.
Right, spaghetti dinners and stuff like that would easily cover all these costs. I just I get frustrated by people seeing a problem and then believe that tax dollars is the only possible solution.
Yeah, something is a great opportunity to bring up the 100. I think it's 100 nights. Yeah,
100 nights in Keene.
100 nights in Keene. Is charity based, and they take cryptocurrency actually. So if you check it out, you can make a donation. And you don't have to be a local to make a contribution there. But it's one of the organizations that I have made contributions to many times, and I know a lot of people in our community have as well. Ian actually he was brought up at the Ian's trial.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's my whole thing. I love what you're talking about, and I really like the fact that this whole program seems to be more focused on the health, on getting these kids healthy and trying to provide them with a path to becoming productive members of society. I applaud the purpose. I just disagree with the funding. Does that make sense?
Well,
the solution to the funding, not the funding itself.
Right.
Well, the thing is, even the nonprofits, the churches that we were talking about, they qualify for these religious halfway homes. The grants are actually coming from federal tax dollars.
Sometimes if they choose to take them, yeah.
So then you're talking about all these church charities. Even they get tax dollar subsidies,
and they shouldn't.
So this was not always the case. I'm old. I'm 300 years old. You know that, right, Sarah? I grew up in a time when people were not taxed near the levels that people are taxed now. And doctors took care of people who needed help without expectation of money. That happened in my hometown.
Wait, you're not that old, are you?
Well, I'm older than dirt. But
dude, you can't be older than 50, right?
Oh, please. What I was trying to say was people were much more charitable than they are now. Charitable giving dropped off when the government started taking money from people at higher levels and promising to do something for them. We will take care of all these things. You don't have to worry about it. We'll cover it.
Well, you talk about these private people should pay for out of their own pocket, but if they have money, what people look at all these people that have student debts, and now Trump wants them to pay money, or they're
All
going to
subsidized by the government.
The problem was that they were given loans in the first place without actually doing any accountability, in terms of whether or not these individuals were in programs that would eventually lead to jobs that paid enough to actually recover those loans.
I have no sympathy for somebody who signs a loan document when they can't afford it.
The issue isn't the private industry would have covered these loans if only they had done accountability, and if they hadn't done their homework, basically, then they would be out of business, because obviously if you issue bad loans and you can't recoup the money after the person graduates, you go out of business, right?
Well, one thing about
the government doesn't go out of business; it just keeps stealing from the rest of us to cover the loans that don't get paid.
Well, I don't know about that, but at least I had testimonies of Cece. She's a school teacher now. And with the Bidens, when he was president, he helped her. I heard about these. He wiped her out of the debt. She was paying like $1,000 a month, and they reduced it to $500 thanks to this new program.
Yeah.
In a year, she winds up paying off the debt, and then he paid off the other part of it. But her schooling was for education to become a teacher, and she is a teacher, so she was employed in that department. I don't know about the criteria, but all of her student loan was paid off.
Yeah.
And then
by you, Chris.
Yeah.
By me.
This is the problem. These people should not have had their student educations funded by the government, especially teachers, because we have a glut of teachers. If you look at the population graph, we have fewer students today in school than we had yesteryear, and we knew this was coming, and yet we still continued to loan out money to wannabe teachers that should never have become teachers, because now we have too many teachers that we have to pay, and you can't fire teachers, so therefore should never have happened. You know where we should have spent that money if we're going to be forced to spend this money, as taxpayers? It should have been on graduating more medical students, because you know what we're short of?
Doctors.
You want to know why we're short of them? Well, in part because they actually artificially reduced the number of people who could graduate.
Sure.
But also because we have an increasing number of elderly people.
Yes.
And why do we have an increasing number of elderly people? The baby boom after World War II. All those people are getting old, and
you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, this is why government should not be involved. Period. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about funding or rulemaking or any of it.
And I've got to say, Obama did two horrific things to the U.S. economy. First of all, he socialized healthcare, which is why instead of prices going down, as was promised, prices are through the roof. Cost of prescription drugs is up, cost of care is up. And the other thing that he did was he nationalized all student debt. He said everything has to go through us, and by the way, the U.S. will guarantee all student loans, which means there is no requirement for a bank to even do due diligence.
Nope.
What is your degree going to be in? Basket weaving? Great. How much do you need? It made education more expensive because the colleges realized, hey, this spigot is turned on and it will give us as much money as you want.
College education didn't go up by the amount of inflation. It went up by like 8% when it was at 2 or 3% a year. And it's like, why do you think that is? It goes up more than inflation explicitly because you literally took money from the general population and loaned people money, as opposed to before they actually had to compete for people based on price. And when you compete on price and people can't afford it, well, you get fewer students. So you're incentivized to keep the prices affordable.
So there we looked at healthcare and we looked at student loans as both things that are horrifically expensive after government got involved.
Right. Education good, government involvement bad.
Yes.
Well, anyway, I'll get back to, if anybody's listening in Albuquerque, do not sign for these idiots just to be put on the ballot. That's what I'm asking. Because I don't want every person that want to run 50 people ballot, all this nonsense.
Do you think she's an AI?
It's very confusing. If there's anybody listening, sign for the people that think that they could do a job, got some kind of job. Those people that believe, I'll put you on the ballot. I'll just sign.
It's like a broken record.
Well, she's upset about this, and I get it, Sarah. But aren't there rules? Aren't there rules in your city charter and your whatever passes for a constitution? Didn't the voters
signatures, and they give you 2 months to get it from Albuquerque registered voters? That's the little net.
Right.
So if you're an idiot, I hope people don't sign for you, because I don't want you, if you're not qualified to be on the ballot. And there's people that believe, I'll just sign so that you could be on the ballot. We could decide not to vote for you at that time. I don't like that. I really don't.
I know you don't, but personally, I like the idea of a full slate of characters I can go through and see if I like any of them. It is more work. I admit that. And if I don't know somebody personally, I just don't vote for them. And if there's nobody running who I personally know, I'm not going to vote for them.
I think we need a new system of government, and it's not based around democracy. It's not based around a dictatorship. It's based around random numbers. And basically, you take everybody in the population. It doesn't matter their age, doesn't matter their gender, doesn't matter their immigration status. Every single person, and then you simply randomly select them. So if they're 8 months old, no problem.
I'm fine.
You can make them president if they're selected. If they're 92 years old, president if they're selected. If they're 13, no problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the United States, Sarah from New Mexico.
I think we would literally have a better solution than democracy.
But only one term. I'm
definitely limit it to one term.
Damage. Cool. So
here's the thing: is that if it was just only narrowed down to 3 candidates, if anybody gets 51%, they get it. They get to win the election. If they got 8 to 11 people, they have to vote again, and it's just taxing.
So are you working on changing this?
When are you running for office, Sarah?
Everybody wants me to run for office.
Well, do that.
Yeah, you should run for office.
Well,
you're passionate. You should run.
Right. You're the most passionate person I know, from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I mean, why not run?
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Martin Heinrich used to be a city councilor. He used to be my city councilor district.
Okay.
He was one of the candidates to be vice president. So he could have wound up being a president.
Sarah,
after he became a Congress.
Sarah, if I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you ran, I would absolutely vote for you.
See? You've got one.
You've got one vote
already.
You're the only person I would vote for on the left. I honestly, I'm sorry, but everybody else, no. I will vote for you.
I would too, Sarah.
I would too. So you got 3 votes, Sarah.
You got 3 votes from libertarians.
That don't count.
Yeah, well, that might be, but...
Right, but it's a thought.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. I've been telling people are acclimated to voting 2 times. It's like this is standard procedure, the runoff. They know they have to vote 2 times, and they do it. So the people that are serious, they think that they have to vote 2 times. But I think if I had to vote once, the first time, narrowing it down to the last 2 is more important. And have, maybe I could, that is more important than voting it that when there's the last 2 people.
So who makes those rules? Was it a referendum? Did everybody vote for this? Was it a city council? Was it something like that?
I have no idea, because they got into a situation where they had 3 candidates, and what happened is that this is Albuquerque is a Democratic city, and the Republican got in because he had all of the Republican, but he did not get 51%. But he got the most votes, and that's the way it was before. So he ended up getting in, and the other 2 candidates, the Democrats split the votes. So they have this new policy. You have to get 51 the first shot, otherwise you do the top candidates and doing the runoff. So everybody's accustomed to voting 2 times now.
Huh. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing that you have a problem with. So I would research how that changed in the first place, and then try to convince people that it should go back to the old way. Why not do that?
Okay, nice talking with you. So you have a good night.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
you too, Sarah. Thank you. When she's done, she's done.
Oh my god,
that's all right.
Yeah.
I always enjoy a good.
I feel like we held her on for too long anyway, but like,
well, every call seems like it goes too long.
I don't know about every call, but
I do try to always interject, at least try to get her to think a little bit. And I know
I don't
she
know if you're going to make much
idolizes.
progress in Sarah, though.
No,
she calls.
I've only been
She's
working
called
on
in
it.
as long as I can remember.
I've only been working on her for 10 years. In another 10 years, it still won't matter.
goes in one ear, goes out the other. Yeah. Yeah.
God. I kind of get it. But what do we just give up? If people are calling with a diehard leftist point of view, and I personally disagree with them, I'm going to continue to try to make a difference.
I actually do like when people on the left call, and people on the right, because it gives us an opportunity to have a discussion.
Oh yeah.
It's sometimes it's hard to have discussions with people who are just so out there, but it's good to have a discussion. Like, I don't think we're going to change anybody's mind. Don't get me wrong, but I still think it's good to have the discussion.
And I don't think it's never about changing Sarah's mind. I'm never going to do that.
No. I'm just one ear out. It goes in one ear, goes out. I don't even know if it goes in the ear.
Right. But for somebody else listening, it might ring a little bit of truth, and maybe they'll at least think. Sarah will never think.
Yeah, I tend to suspect probably not. But you know what I do think it does is it gets people, it gets the ideas of liberty out there. And some percentage of people, I think, will end up hearing about things like the Free State Project, and they'll end up moving to New Hampshire, and we'll have some impact somewhere. And that's the thing that's the reason I do, Free Talk Live.
Sure.
It's the advocating for peaceful solutions to problems. And I don't think we're going to have peaceful solution problems everywhere, but if we focus on like New Hampshire, I think we can eventually achieve that, general objective.
Yeah. And I'm of the opinion that if you make wherever you live a bit more free, that's a good thing. And if you can overturn one bad law in wherever you are, that's great.
That's a nice
win.
thought. I just don't know if that's possible anywhere.
Right. And you may find out that you just can't get it done where you are.
Right.
That you're just beating your head against a wall.
Well, I mean, I
if
see
you come here, you'll have people on your side.
I see it every day. I mean, all right, that's a little bit over the top, but I see it a lot. Like, so actually, it's a great time to bring up in our 2 minutes that we got left. I went to Shiloh had a trial in Vermont the other 2 days it was 2 day trial, and it was I'm trying to think what the charges were exactly, but basically it was hindering a police officer or impeding a police officer.
Okay.
And this trial, the trial basically had no evidence. It was all speculative, and basically you had to infer everything.
So allegedly, what did Shiloh do?
So allegedly, well, I can tell you what she did do, right? So there's video of it, right? And it literally does not matter because nobody thinks, nobody thinks for themselves, ever. And this is why you can't change people's minds. The evidence was basically a video that showed her getting into a car. Well, two kids running to the car, getting in the car. The office, it was a very, very, very brief interaction with law enforcement, but Dylan, the boyfriend, was basically told he was under arrest, and for what I don't know, because he hadn't actually committed any crimes yet, but nonetheless, and the officer was dealing with him. Now he had a firearm on him, he had a gun, and so for safety reasons, they put him under arrest, and they never told anybody that anybody was being detained, although they did tell Dylan that he was under arrest. And Dylan was the one right next to the cop, and behind Dylan was the car, and the two kids ran into the car. And as that's happening, she's going around to the driver's seat, gets in the driver's seat, and takes off. Now, she obviously knew there was a law enforcement officer, but at no point did they ever, tell her she was detained. They never told her, anything in regards to.
You can't leave. You can't go.
Right. The court, there was a court order, but she was never informed of this court order. Nobody was. Anyway, or she couldn't hear it anyway. And it was pretty obvious from the video she wouldn't have been able to hear it because she was kind of, first of all, she was clearly focused on getting out of there and going around the car. And so she wouldn't have been able to hear it. But it didn't make any difference whatsoever. She should have known, basically, is what they argued, because of various law enforcement attempts to reach out. But they said, no, we don't want to talk to you every single time. And so somehow, this is impeding an officer, even though there was no knowledge that she was helping the kids get away or something. And the kids were in the court. One of the kids was at least in the court order to show up in court, and they were.
Anyone can publish on the internet, but not everyone is publishing material suited for online reading. According to the Yahoo Style Guide, it cautions that internet content has a few seconds, 3 or less, to encourage people to read more, to take action, or navigate to another one of your pages. So make it easy for readers to pick and choose. Isn't that the way you poke around online? Use short words, short sentences, short paragraphs, bulleted lists, and short pages.